During the dark, cold night, a man is seen climbing a lot of stairs. He climbed the stairs while carrying a very large tool which he put on his back. Then, with sweat all over his body, he tried to carry the large tool until he finally reached the border, before he finally reached a place. As soon as he brought it, he stopped for a moment to rest, then walked back to reach the 4th floor. And after that, he finally arrived. The man's name is Jin Tae-Kyung. He is a hunter who has rank F. Then after that on the other side. Finally, he arrived at his place. He put the device in a room. And someone who saw it said it was rubbish. In that room it turned out that he was not alone. He was with his friend Song Jin-ho. He's a friend of Jin Tae-Kyung. Song Jin-ho is a college student. He's one of the students who has repeated exams for 7 years from his university. But after that, he wanted a high-tech machine. But he couldn't do anything, because he had to get money and somehow do it. He's stuck with the old trash. It turns out it had been taken by Young, who had been fired from his job as a hunter. That's quite an important job, because hunters were supposed to enter dungeons and kill monsters to earn money. However, his 2 friends were drunk that night, but took a Young who was reading the machine's user manual and fell asleep in it. However, he accidentally enters Murim as a player and wakes up to find himself in the hostess bar. He slept next to a girl who spoke Chinese. This is when he got a message window that appeared in front of him and scared him. Then after that, he reads the message and informs him about entering the Murim world and installs the translation package to understand that he is playing this game. Now he knows that the girl's name is Walhua. Walhua finds his behavior very strange. As he receives the quest tutorial, his first task was to gather information. Because of that, he found out from one of the wives that he was in Taiwan, where his family is quite prestigious. But he was a troublemaker. Hearing this, he even tried to get out of the game, which turned out to be impossible. And he thought he was trapped in the game. Jin Tae-Kyung has tried every trick to log out in the last 3 days. However, that is no longer possible. He had learned that Mum was a martial arts game, and he can die in real life if he dies in the game. He had decided to do as many quests as he could to level up, and then try to exit, which sounds fair enough. He received the 2nd tutorial quest, and learned that he was a 3rd-class soldier in the game, even though he belonged to a noble family. He proceeded to spend all points in his stats, and reached the awakening section, which promoted him to the position of 2nd-class soldier. Finally, he got new clothes from inventory and a spear that made him look like a fighter. This is the 3rd tutorial quest started, but after that, he found a group of bandits. But what he needs to fight the bandit leader is Jang Sam. Jang Sam has arrived with 6 of his friends to loot and take Jin Tae-Kyung, when his driver told him that he needed to show how scary he was, so he has some tricks up his sleeve. He walks towards the bandits and cuts down all the bandits in an instant. After getting his spear from inventory, his fame will increase now. Then after that, he took the youthful memories he had. A discussion with Song Jin-ho about the VR game's time manipulation, meaning that his friend should have woken up in the real world. He started to hope that Song Jin-ho would eventually wake him up and reject the 4th tutorial quest. However, in the end, he found out that he could do that. Searches are accepted automatically. When he meets an old man who helps him achieve his key circulation, the moment he arrives at his family's estate, he must accept the main quest. When he arrived at the plantation, Jen's family activated the chi sense and became happy, and instantly he knew that he could leave the game after. Completing several quests, he meets the plantation gatekeeper Mujin, who treats him like a stranger in his own home. He is annoyed that he took a young boy who stole from his family's possessions to spend his evening at the expense of a brothel. Then, after that, the two ended up fighting, then brought Jin Tae-Kyung's younger brother, Jin Wik-Yunk, to know about his little fight, and looked happy enough for some reason to make Young wake up in the hospital, and decided that he should become more proficient in martial arts. However, if he wants to defeat someone like Mujin in the future, this is when our Chen comes in, and honestly, he looks pretty scary since he's at least a level 30 fighter. Luckily, he's happy his little brother is okay, while pretending not to remember anything immediately. But after that, Jin Tae-Kyung got better, and was taken to his room in the plantation, which felt more like a palace. After living in a rundown apartment in the real world, Jin Tae-Kyung enters the library to learn all the martial arts skills and grabs all the books that can help him achieve his goals, while the system is the system. On the other hand, Gen Wei is walking with her trusted man. They look at Jin Tae-Kyung's house and are surprised when they see him practicing all the martial arts. The skills from the book made Jin Tae-Kyung tired, after learning the leg techniques, and decided to take a break before trying harder. The next day, Jin Tae-Kyung, as his servant, entered the spare practice room. The next morning, while Genwi also found out about this strange request, was very happy that his little brother was trying his best to learn martial arts for the first time. Although Pang doesn't want to believe Jin Tae-Kyung wants to give his brother one last chance to prove himself and decides to lock him up. Later in the training cave for an indefinite period, Jin Tae-Kyung is displeased after hearing his brother's orders. But he finally agreed because he didn't stand a chance against Wei Pang, who took him to the cave. Jin Tae-Kyung received his punishment, and he ended up locked in the cave. On the other hand, Jin Tae-Kyung was a little worried about him, because he can't stop thinking about external things, as well as there's too much politics to deal with. While Jin Tae-Kyung continues to increase his stats in the cave by practicing martial arts, and it seems like he is enjoying solitary confinement. Then after that, in the real world, Song Jin-ho finally tried to wake Tae-Kyung while he was still in a deep state, and has risen to 2 full levels. After endless training, he called Mugen as his opponent for training. Suspicious when he keeps winning, with him he wants Mujin to become stronger. So he adjusted his settings to give her the technique and prepared to fight. But after that, Jin Tae-Kyung had reached level 4, and he was starting to believe that he could start hunting. Then after that, he came out of the cave. This was when we painted to get him out, because it had been 5 days since he had been in the cave. Then after that, he brought him to the political Great Hall, where he was waiting for him with the members of the Hanging Mountain Sword Sect and other elders, who looked at him with great anger. He met Lee Seo-gun. At this point he was not happy, because Jin Tae-Kyung didn't recognize him. He accused Jin Tae-Kyung of raping the young lady of the mountain sword sack with a lot of evidence in his hands that made it difficult to deny the accusation. But it looks like he needs to fight Lee to get out of this mess. When he reveals that his true intention was to gain control over it, Tae-Kyung agrees to the match to prevent war. Even though Lee is at level 30, Jin Tae-Kyung hopes to die after fighting against Lee, but he knew that Lee was trying to frame him with accusations. Then Lee attacked him immediately, when Jin Tae-Kyung found out that his defense was strong enough, but he needed to find out whether the attack is good or not. He started attacking Lee and beating him very badly, while other sect members asked for the match to be cancelled. He cried in shock when he saw Lee being beaten by Jin Tae-Kyung, while he was dealing with a male who was making a fuss. It might just be the greatest moment of his life. Meanwhile, Jin Tae-Kyung finally defeats him after punching him with all his strength, making the entire audience truly shocked by his development. The next day, he was quite satisfied that his little brother had finally changed and returned to his training, when a messenger pigeon landed in his hand. Then after that, he wakes up in his carriage and looks very angry, because he lost against Jin Tae-Kyung, when a strange black man appeared in front of him, making him fall to the ground. Land on the other side, Jin Tae-Kyung returns to the cave to practice, and thinks that he needs to improve his locks to be able to defeat his opponent more easily. While Jin Wei was having another meeting with the elders when the eldest senior made a dramatic entrance. Jin Tae-Kyung's room was brought in front of the oldest senior and found out that he was their grandfather. But why is everyone so tensed when he interrogates her about poisoning? And he immediately denied it, which made a fight break out between the elders. Of course, Kara, he will not leave his brother's side, and tells everyone to prepare for an impressive battle. But his grandfather also told all the leaders to support the genie's wings, while taking young people feels like something is very wrong, and all of this could be part of a bigger plan. It seemed like war was declared, when all the warriors gathered in front of the main family when Jin Tae-Kyung asked his brother about their grandfather, who reminded him of an old politician. This is when he reveals that the chief leader is manipulative, but as he was suspicious, therefore, he should not be his enemy. This time he showed up beyond their date to receive his payment. In fact, the Underworld District cult leader honestly revealed that he was only helping Jen's family to gain profits for his brothel branch, which means he is half of the mountain hanging sword stone, and he immediately agreed. The second reason is that he likes to take too many young people. Because of that, they finally made a deal to form an alliance. Didn't we almost cry next to all the children in Hank Mountain's sword sect being slaughtered, while his grandfather told him that he should start acting like the head of the family and not cry over some deaths? Now it was Young's turn to talk to their grandfather, who suggested he fight on the front lines during a war that left him too afraid to speak. Because his new quest begins immediately takes Young to become the leader of the Guard Scout team. Then after that, he had 5 people assigned to him properly. At least the whole team looks nervous together. On the other side of the wave, Jen received information from the lower district sect about the arrival of enemy troops in Jinyang led by Joe Pill, when he remembered that Jin Tae-Kyung had also been sent. Jin Tae-Kyung is trying to teach his group about some battle formations. When they start making fun of him for starting the war, of course, he punishes them before they can insult him any further and slaps him. Them 3 times to show his strength. On the other hand, Joe's pills kill the entire family, including the children, and plans to chase the escaped ones. Meanwhile, it has started to snow, and the young retriever has no choice but to take shelter in the hut with his group. However, they found a child waiting for them outside when they stepped out to continue their training, and it seemed like an unexpected quest has begun for Jin Tae-Kyung. Then after that, he is a small child who recently witnessed the brutal murder of his father, and Xiaozhou. Of course, his parents made him run away with his sister. So you will save them from being killed too. Luckily, Uncle Gong took them to Hangshu, because he knows that Pill, Joe, and his men are still chasing them at the moment. But Joe Pill's people came to kill them. Therefore, their uncle had to stay behind to deal with them. While the children finally meet, take the young people in their group, they prepare to fight the soldiers' job bill. When taking, the young boy knows that he must kill these people and save the children to complete his quest. Took the young alone, killing all the enemy soldiers, and couldn't stop laughing. Then at the level of experience he gained, perhaps he could reach the highest level just by cutting down people like them. Later, the children found them. It was Uncle Gong who was injured, who thanked their savior and told them that there were 30 more pursuers chasing them. Hearing this, Jin Tae-Kyung clearly wanted to stay and wipe them all out, until he heard about Joe's pills being at the highest attainable level of martial arts, of course. He changed his decision after getting this information and decided to escort the children and their uncle to the main family on the other side of the pill. Joe also saw the corpses of his soldiers and couldn't wait to meet the person who had killed them so brutally. However, Pang is on his way with his men to rescue Young from Pill Joe, who is, literally, a monster. While Joe Pill is quite fascinated by the way his men were killed by unknown fighters and is ready to hunt. The fun this time was, of course, he even killed him. However, the warriors of the Mountain Sword sect when they tried to stop him from disobeying the family head's orders, and continued his pursuit. On the other hand, Jin Tae-Kyung led the entire group, including the children, and Uncle Gong to Taiyan. They took refuge in a small cave at night. When Gong died due to poison used by his enemies after entrusting the children to look after Young. This triggers another search for Jin Tae-Kyung, who instructs him to escort the children to safety. But it seems there are no prizes, because Jin Tae-Kyung is back on the road with his group and the children. But it seemed he had decided not to complete the mission given to him by the Gong, because he didn't want to play the hero and put everyone in a bad situation. His decision when he looked at the children and saw the younger version of himself looking back at him. All children need us love, and he knows that he wants it in his childhood also. On the other hand, a ghost-like figure with an unknown identity was telling the head of the Hanging Mountain Sword sect about the ongoing war, because he really couldn't wait to take revenge for his son. Jin Tae-Kyung and his group find a pack of wolves, and they prepare to fight, but was surprised when the wolves ran away as if they had seen something scary. This was when he received a quest notification telling him that he must kill Joe's pills to complete the quest, or he will surely die. Later, he is confronted by the dreaded Pill Joe, who is very curious about him and tells him that he would let him live. However, if he answered his question, the young man obviously didn't want to die. Therefore, he told him the whole story, which even made Joe laugh and become happy. When he hears that the pills Joe lets him go, and starts to take his group away with him, when the mercenary interrupts to tell him that his group is not allowed to go with him. Then a young person has to choose between saving his life or saving the lives of his group. And he obviously decided to save his whole life. Group when he refused to leave, when Joe's pills told him to the two, starting an intense face-off that made the youngster regret his decision. Soon as the pill, Joe blocked all his attacks easily, but he couldn't hold back his anger. When Joe's pills kill one of his group members, which makes him ready to kill the mercenaries. The fight continues, and brought the youngster to find it very difficult to get his offense to hit him. However, when he decides to enlist the help of his group to fight Joe's pills, an intense fight continues between a young boy who is really afraid of dying in the game and Joe Pill, who really wants to kill him, and a very injured young boy. However, he didn't want to give up just yet. Many remembered that this was a game and he had been fighting like an idiot. All the time, Jin Tae-Kyung equipped himself with a dagger. Then in a flash, and attacked Joe's disbelieving pills. That he had been hiding a secret weapon the whole time. Joe Pill was very confused when he was stabbed, but continued to fight until both were seriously injured, and it seemed like they were on the verge of death. And this is when Jin Tae-Kyung decides to use his secret skill called Might, which will definitely save his life, and move to thrust the spear into Joe Pill's heart with all his strength. Jin Tae-Kyung finally defeated Joe Pill, but it seemed like he was even more injured than before, because he was lying in a pool of blood on the other side. A group of hunters discovered a number of magical gems during the raid. Then when he took his young leader's squad to continue the raid and find more gems, but his entire team ended up being killed by the boss monster, right in front of him when he wakes up back in Murim. And it looks like he just had the nightmare that Kami Pang told Jin Tae-Kyung about, and that the survivors of his group had been sent back to their homes, and that they had won the battle against the Hanging Mountain Sword sect. They had even managed to defeat 2 high-ranking warriors of their enemy. But he looks more impressed with taking Young to beat Joe's Pill. This is when a tearful Jinwei appears to hug his little brother, for being alive while Hank Mountain's sword sect tries to recruit more soldiers to win the war against the family. Then after that, he took the Young information from the doctor, that he has a magic potion that has helped him improve his locks for 20 years, and he has gained 13 levels in an instant. Killing Joe's pills turned out to be very useful. Moreover, he had acquired the skill of defeating his enemy's enemies with one attack, and many rumors had spread about him, which made him quite famous among all good people. Then the news was that there were only 2 more conditions he had to fulfill to get out, and he agreed to lead the rear warriors in the battle against the Mountain Sword sect. This hanging was when he started to believe that he was a first-class soldier, which made him meet one of his conditions of taking young necessities to increase his fame, and ends up dropping out of the game because of that. He meets all these new people to fulfill this requirement. Then he goes to see his old group members in the hospital and finds it too dramatic and cringy. However, his mood changed instantly when they gave him Joe's Pill item, which was quite powerful, while the head of the Mountain Sword sect couldn't wait to wipe out the entire Jin family and take control of their territory. As he prepared for battle, Jin Wick-young was ready for battle with his troops and give them encouragement. Taking the young man standing to the side, looking more afraid than ever, the army marches out as Tae-Kyung finds out that Mujan has escaped from the hospital to fight in the battle. When he takes his brother for a walk, he tells the young hero that this is the perfect opportunity to ask him on a mission, but he only asked her to survive so that the family would grow. Next was about their grandfather's participation in the battle, and he told him about his nickname, which was Flower Blade. Later that night, Jinwei drew up a battle plan with his commander, and decided to station their troops at the Gorge of 8 Springs, which was the perfect place to set up an ambush. However, it stays up all night as the army arrives in the canyon, and he looks ready to get out and return to the real world. That's when Kwok Jun revealed that he was there to kill Jin Tae-Kyung and his group of first-class warriors. While he does not believe that they have been betrayed by the shaman, Jun's warriors attack and take out the young boy and his group. But he was surprised to see that they defended themselves quite skillfully, taking on the young people against them with so many. He said it seemed like he was really enjoying it, seeing this Kwok Jun trying to escape. Then when Jin Tae-Kyung stopped him and found out that their grandfather was the one who planned their murder, and wanting to overthrow Jin Wick-young, they immediately went to save the troops. Main family when Jin Tae-Kyung completes his final condition to reach 500 fame and will exit the game by force taking, he wakes up in the real world. Then finally, and it felt like a long time ago, he found Song Jin-ho still sound asleep and snoring and hit him hard to wake him up. Song Jin-ho wakes up injured from the continuous attacks and tells him that it had only been 3 hours since Jin Tae-Kyung entered the game, and everyone who saw Jin Tae-Kyung was watching. Then he made a wish gene into the game, but found out that it was turned off, which made him wonder if he was just dreaming all this time. Really confused, took Young to find the user manual and read that the capsule is bound to only one player until death. Young wonders if his group members have conveyed the news about their grandfather's betrayal to Jin Wick-young. But deciding to put his thoughts aside for now, he visited every shop that specialized in selling VR capsule products, but didn't find any capsules identical to the one he had. What's more surprising is the fact that Jin-ho is unable to view all user guide pages, which means Jin Tae-Kyung is the only one who has all the information about the game. But he talked it over with his sister and threw the game away before leaving to look for work. The next morning he met an E-rank hunter named Yuk-jin, but before a man from the Peace Guild asked him to sign a document, Yuk-jin introduced him, bringing Young to other members of the Peace Guild. In the car, and he finds out that he has been appointed as the transporter, as dictated by leader Choi. Then they continued their plan, and reaches the gate where Jin Tae-Kyung puts on his old gear, and is shocked to find that the Peace Guild only has 3 members. Soon their group enters the gate and immediately comes face to face with a group of goblin fighting party goblins. But when Jin Tae-Kyung decided to use the skills he learned in Grim to fight, but leader Choi defeated them before he could show off his moves. They reach the boss zone soon, and they prepared to enter after forming their positions. They go inside to find a floor full of goblin corpses and see a spellcaster who might be the boss monster, and it seemed like they had to get out of there as quickly as possible. Then takes Young's party trapped in the room where the rare monster Sea Rake is, then looks eager to kill them all with the hobgoblin warrior chief. Their only chance of survival depends on killing the priest. Head, and it seemed like Choi had taken it upon himself to deal with it. Of course, the young kid wasn't happy about having to fight and distract the bum goblin at the same time, since he was supposed to just be a baggage boy. Then after that, he decided to use his one-strike skill to kill the homeless goblin and attack it with all his might. Then when he got the notification that his synchronization with his game character was complete, excitingly used the martial arts techniques I learned in the game and used them all to kill a homeless goblin in a matter of seconds. Lear Choi was clearly shocked. Then, after seeing the young F-rank hunter's skill set while another of their party was injured during the fight, the notification system was now activated, and Jin Tae-Kyung felt like telling him to return to the Murim. But he puts those thoughts aside when leader Choi invites him to dinner, and promises to keep his skills a secret if he decides to join their guild. Jin Tae-Kyung was quite impressed with leader Choi's offer, and asked for time to think about it. But of course he didn't know that leader Choi already had a lot of information about him, and wanted to know about the facts. That he was the only survivor of the gate that appeared in Sandong district on the other side. Tae-Kyung got his capsule back, and thought about the leader's choice offer, because he offered him quite a lot of money. Suddenly he started to yearn for redemption, and reached the Hunter Association to get a higher rank. Then in the Hunter Association, rumors spread about the appearance of Marine rank hunters. This bit of information clearly caught the ears of the small guild leader, who was truly interested in this development. All guilds are waiting for the new C-rank hunter. When Jin Tae-Kyung arrives in front of them, and appears as the Sheikh's former boss, who is also eager to recruit. But he was amazed to see Jin Tae-Kyung. Because he was the one who got him fired, Tae-Kyung happily rejected his offer and walked out of the Hunter Association to meet with leader Choi, because he had decided to go on a raid with him. Jin Tae-Kyung had signed a temporary contract with leader Choi in his guild, therefore they had entered the rank D gate for their raid. Then when he finds out that the gate technically belongs to Choi himself, how rich he really is the right question to ask. Currently, Jin Tae-Kyung really wants to know Choi's ranking. Since he is a resurgent hunter, it is also a good time to truly witness his skills. Then after that, when the swamp lizards show up to attack the toys, they actually want to take the young to fight the lizard people alone. while he observes from afar the really annoying take on the young. But he obviously has no choice. He starts fighting the lizard man and kills all of them. But Choi still looks dissatisfied, so she sprays perfume to attract more lizard men towards her. A few moments later, Jin Tae-Kyung was surprised that the lizard men's squad approached him with their chief. But this time he was ready to fight them alone, taking his youthful use of one attack to kill the entire lizardmen army. In an instant, that definitely impressed Choi. But he refused to believe that Jin Tae-Kyung was stronger than him as soon the chosen butler took his first payout, which was more than he had earned in his entire life. And he now looks ready to work as much as Choi wants. The game world he left behind, Jin Tae-Kyung, has entered another gate with Choi. But this time it was different because he was injured during this fight with the lizardmen toy figures, that there was something clearly bothering him that reminded him of the nightmares he had been having lately. However, after that, later that night, Tae-Kyun woke up after having another nightmare about Jin Wee and the battle that was sure to start in the Murim world, when he got a call from Choi Toy, quite confused that Jin Tae-Kyung was able to clear all C-rank and D-rank gates. Without his help, which meant that he had to be higher than a rank B hunter, he had clearly decided to recruit him into his guild, no matter what he did to take the young boy, with a better offer than before that will make him quite rich. However, taking a young person does not sign a contract, because he still has to deal with his Murim nightmares. He promised Choi to sign this contract, then the next day, and left after finally deciding to re-enter the world of Murim. Then the young boy wakes up inside the Murim and finds out that Mujan was carrying his unconscious body the whole time. He stood with his troops and their grandfather while he waited for the mountain to hang the sword of the main force sect. Meanwhile, Jin Tae-Kyung knows that they still have several hours of travel until they meet the main troops, so they started running as fast as they could. On the other side of the mountainhead, Hank's sword sect Chan Baek has entered the Valley of Battle himself and shouted for the heads of all members of the Jen family. He has also decided to enter the battlefield to protect his family and encourage his troops to kill all their opponents, while their grandfather volunteered to deal with the Chan Baek himself. The fight between the Jen family's grandfather and the Chan Baek started, and it was truly worth watching. Because this is a fight between two badass martial arts masters. Grandpa has the edge over Chan Baek, as he entered it soon, and it looked like the fight would end sooner than anyone expected. Then after that he was killed by their grandfather when Jin Tae-Kyung arrived in time to tell everyone about the betrayal. The old man, of course, no one was prepared to believe his accusations until he stepped in to confirm his suspicions. But after that, he ordered him to kill their grandfather, which forced him to show his true colors, and they found out that almost all of their army was formed with warriors. Then the old man took something that attacked their grandfather, but found that the lock was too strong for him to handle so easily. So he decided to duel him, and the two started fighting. When he saved Chan Baek from the old man immediately, he was the one getting ready to take on their grandfather, which might prove to be very entertaining. But haven't we already used up a lot of his keys during the fight, and know that defeating their grandfather will definitely be a difficult task? When the elders killed the legal advisor that sent a commotion throughout the army, grandfather was really upset. When the army started throwing stones at him and other elders. When he attacked Jin Tae-Kyung once again, who was saved by Jin Wick-young. Jin Wick-young apparently killed another traitorous elder and ordered all the martial arts teachers to attack grandfather. However, of course he managed to stop their attack and even hit Jin Wick-young, which made the young man angry and took the young man running towards his grandfather to kill him with one attack. While Jin Wick-young attacked him from the other side, and it seemed like the old man could finally sense the danger around him, the grandfather was interested enough to take Young's one attack move because his arm had been cut off, and he finally admitted that his grandson had grown into an extraordinary warrior. Didn't we think that grandfather was only fighting for the inheritance? And apparently he was still upset about his brother's betrayal during the old war that occurred decades ago. Last time, didn't we attack grandfather from behind? But the old man refused to give up and continued fighting. After adding some sword upgrades, young Grab accidentally killed Chan Baek when he stabbed his grandfather. The old man was lying dying when Chen Wei and said goodbye to him. And it turns out Tae-Kyung finally got the title of Sleeping Dragon. After killing Grandpa, the entire army cheers for young Take-On after he defeats Grandpa. However, Kami Pang was disturbed after the first elder warned him about the Dark Heaven before dying. On the other hand, a hooded figure called Dark Heaven appeared in front of the sect leader, Jin Chung, and killed him for being useless. However, it seemed like he had decided to take it for now, while he focused on his master plan. Then several men huff and puff about, and the family's victory during the battle. When a man appears asking for more information about the incident, the mysterious man is not happy with the increasing popularity. Young, and looked very upset when he reached the Jin family residence. Meanwhile, Jin Tae-Kyung was quite happy with getting 13 levels at once, and he thought that returning to Murim was worth the effort. Who is the ultimate warrior himself? Of course, Jin Tae-Kyung got a surprise when Mook-young started attacking him out of nowhere, which proved it, that the two brothers did not have a close relationship. Jin Tae-Kyung decided to fight back when Mook-young's attacks became more aggressive, and the two brothers started hitting each other like they were still a pair of children. It turned out that Mook-young really didn't believe the rumors about his sister's newly formed skills, because the only thing he knows how to do is chase the girl he admires. When Jin Tae-Kyung managed to block his attack and wondered whether such drastic progress was really possible in such a short time. Then after that, Jin Tae-Kyung decided to prove his point by kicking Jin Tae-Kyung out of the house, making him land right in front of Jin Wee with a cut on his face. Which confuses their older brother to no end. Tae-Kyung wakes up back in the hospital and is greeted by So-yul, who is hiding from her brother, who tells him that everyone is very angry with Mook-young for attacking him. Then on the other hand, don't we welcome Mook-young as she returns home after many years, and they discuss their little brother's surprising progress. He really couldn't believe that Jin Tae-Kyung had become a competent fighter now, while we pay a secret mission to bring back all of this gender within Shangji province back to Genhui, so that they can all unite to fight the Dark Heaven. Later, Jin Tae-Kyung goes looking for Jin Wick-young to find a new place to live, and his older brother takes him to Mook-young's place, which means that the two younger brothers will become roommates. From now on, as long as we ourselves just want our little brother to get along well and live together. But it looks like Jin Tae-Kyung and Mook-young are ready to live peacefully. But they clearly have no choice. Mook-young finds the perfect opportunity to lay down some ground rules for her little brother, and took the young assent to all his rules before going to his room. Then he thought that his brother was really a psychopath, but he would definitely be perfect to get training from him and become a stronger warrior. This is when he finds out that he can leave the game at any time he wanted to. That's why he ended up disturbing Mook-young's meditation while celebrating this big news. On the other hand, he reached the Demon Sword sect with Jin Wick-young summoned, and the head of the Gamo sect immediately accepted the summons. Didn't we hear the sound of weapons clashing from Mook-young's house quite late at night? And it turns out that his two younger siblings were fighting again. Mook-young was clearly angry at Jin Tae-Kyung for disturbing his meditation. That's why he hit him while also giving him directions to fight better. Of course, he praised his stamina and locks during the fight, which made Jin Wick-young wonder if they would start training together soon. Then he woke up early the next day and apologized to his second brother. When Mook-young agrees to train him at the training ground, and it looks like they might have to call the head doctor. After this is done, incredible strength, and able to withstand even 200 of his attacks. Then Mook-young shows him how to learn techniques with different weapons, especially swords. The two start fighting again. And the next time Jin Tae-Kyung will stop training after being beaten for the 100th time. Mook-young isn't ready to let him give up this easily and cripple a young kid. While he threatens to kill her, this is her moment of paralysis. Ends, and Jin Mook-young tells him that his lifespan is definitely getting shorter. The young man knew that he needed his brother's help to improve his skills, and his training began officially. Mastery level faster than anyone else. Therefore, he ended his training at the right time. But they will start brawly again, when Genhui called him. Jin Wick-young had decided to send the two to the Hank Mountain Sword sect as envoys to meet the new one. Female sect leader So-wo. Two brothers started their journey towards Hanging Mountain Sword sect. When Jin Tae-Kyung decided to quit the game on the train, leaving his precious body in Mook-young's care, Jin Tae-Kyung returned to the real world and signed the leader's choice of contract to join the Peace Guild. And it looks like he's going to make crazy money. Now later, Choi takes the young people to their guild house where they meet the other guild members. Guilds only have a limited number of members, But they were ready to go on their first raid together at the B-rank gate. The party was ready for the raid. When they found out that they had to go on a raid together with the guild. Then after that, their leader Chang-Su, who was the strongest hunter of the entire combined party, enter the gate, and it is revealed that Chang-Su trapped the entire Peace Guild by having their party join in their attack, because he wanted to hit their female members' songs. His intentions are very dishonorable because he wants to kill Choi and take away the young child. Before he finally got the song, the entire Sangdong Guild was ready to face the monsters at the top of the gate called Minotaurs. While Choi and Young discuss their plan of action, Chang-Su clearly sees it as the perfect opportunity to get rid of them both. But only after humiliating them in front of his son, he bet $4 million saying take the Young to kill all the Minotaurs. While Choi also bets in his favor, which scares him at first of course. Young Taker accepts the bat and goes forward to fight the Minotaur, and kills one of the monsters in one attack. Young Take deals with 8 Minotaur cars alone, and is eager to collect his payment from Chang-Su. Then after that, he humiliated Chang-Su. After calling him out for chasing girls and bullying him to get the whole amount from him, Chang-Su definitely wanted to know more about taking Young now, and told his team members to take him down, as he fought against the boss monster at the gate. The plan obviously didn't work, because Jin Tae-Kyung defeated the monster with one attack, and Chang-Su decided never to mess with a hunter like him. But after that, send him their money. He promised him now, hey. Kyung didn't know that Chang-Su's father was the leader of the Sangdong Union leader Chun-Su, whose nickname was Chin-Su. He was a rank hunter, and he definitely wouldn't react well to his son's insult, as this was exactly what happened when Chen-Su threatened to kill his son for betting and losing millions of dollars. Meanwhile, Tae-Kyung goes to visit his mother and sister to show them the $4 million he received. Then leader Choi gives him a break for a week as the guild has renovated, but he's actually trying to figure out how Tae-Kyung keeps getting stronger. Choi actually hoped that the Sangdong Guild's intelligence would reveal the secret that Young had taken. However, it looks like Chun-Su won't do much about his loss, as Jin Tae-Kyung is currently looking for a new home in a safer neighborhood, and was walking when he met his old school friend named Ji Wong, who had become an elite hunter quite late that night. A mage named Wu Jin followed Jin Tae-Kyung through the streets, and it seemed that surveillance on him had begun. Then after that, he found it hard to believe that a Marine rank hunter could kill all those Minotaurs without even blinking. But luckily, most of the information about the Peace Guild members had been locked. That's why Chun-Su used all his intelligence to get more information about taking Young. Then on the other hand, takes Young knowing that he is being followed because all the flies in his house are familiars who are watching him. He didn't leave to let the Sangdong Guild get away with this disturbance. Took young people to work and bought a lot of hunter equipment. After that, he found out that Wu Jin was the one who sent all these familiars to his place. He made the perfect plan to catch him and the others who had been following him, because now he just had to wait for them to come to him. Wu Jin had abandoned his task of tracking Jin Tae-Kyung, and he was angry that the Sangdong Guild intelligence team was interfering with his work. While taking action, Young's plan succeeds when his pursuer comes right in front of him. He deals with them all alone, and the fight ends with him getting all the details about their mission. This is when he gets a call from a strange number and finds Chen-Su on the other end of the line. Then after that, Jin Tae-Kyung goes to meet Chun-Su, who tells him that his entire existence has started to bother him. Chen-Su decides to attack him this time, but is surprised when he manages to dodge her magical attack. This is when Kim's chosen butler appears and is revealed that he is a famous person. Instructor at the Hunters Association. Butler Kim made Chen-Su catch up on his physical training before taking the youngster with him. He took the young man out of his old apartment and took the old Murim capsule with him to his new place. Later that night, brings young Wood back to the world of Murim and finds himself on his way to meet Wool's seal with young Mook soon. They reach the hotel and they have to stay there, when several members of the Crimson Victorious clan started a fight with Jin Tae-Kyung. Jin Tae-Kyung defeated the warriors of the clan easily because none of them were high-ranking warriors. But he was still unsure about their identity for now when he met Hawaii, who wanted to accompany them, on their way to fulfill their own ulterior motives to obtain the wealth of that mountain sword sect. However, It looks like Mook Young is starting to have a crush on Hua Wall as he acts shy when talking to her. And Jin Tae-Kyung are unsure about how to feel as they set up camp at the temple to rest for the night when a group of horse tribe members arrive ready to steal their goods and sell them to a different bandit group. Then of course their dreams only last until Mook Young kills them and kills most of the horse tribe members, and even made them beg for their lives when they found out that they were the Crimson Clan's win as well immediately. A messenger bird told him the Crimson Wind Clan would attack Hanging Mountain Sword Sect, and they decided to go save them immediately. But meanwhile, the Crimson Wind Cult had already started to cause destruction in the Hank Mountain Sword Sect region. So the new head wolf of the Mountain Sword Sect could truly feel the hatred of his people towards his incompetence, while the Red Wings clan attacked them with all their strength. They only have one option to wait to take the young boy and his small group to save them before they are all killed. This is when the status window. Then after that, Jin Tae-Kyung pointed out that he had to complete the final quest within the time limit, which was why they started moving faster than before. Jin Tae-Kyung is running out of time, but he managed to deal with some of the Crimson Wind members on his way to the main army, and even got their horses to reach faster. Plus he also discovered that the Crimson Wind Clan's young leader was their best martial artist too. Then on the other side, Hung Yang has reached near Mount Hang Sword Set, where she reveals her plan to marry him to make them all surrender. He ordered his armor to attack. Meanwhile, Jin Tae-Kyung is having breakfast a few miles away and can hear them screaming. Of course, his suspicions are ignored by Mook Young, who wants him to be careful and prepare for the battlefield. Mountain Sword Sect's gate is in danger. However, when the Red Wind Clan army tried to break it up, So Wool was quite worried about his people. Therefore, he asked his uncle to buy time. Seeing this, Hong Yang decided to go to the battlefield himself, and finally face Cheol as a wolf trusted by uncle. She immediately beats Joel to the wool to marry him to avoid more bloodshed. When Jin Tae-Kyung and his gang finally arrived, Jin Tae-Kyung and others decided to deal with the Crimson Wind Army. There later, and leave Walwa and Mujin to look after Joel. On the other side, Pyongyang forces Sol Wol to marry him. Well, he obviously doesn't want to do it, but he might have to agree to save his people. This is when Mook-Young and Tae-Kyung show up to ruin his victory celebration, and then a fight broke out between them. Jin Mook-Young attacks Punyang himself while making a deal with his henchmen. But suddenly he saw Punyang taking a strength pill in the middle of the fight instead of cheating. However, he was very confident that he would win the fight after taking the pill. Then when Jin Tae-Kyung used one punch to kill him from behind, but he was shocked to find out that his move didn't work as Pyongyang used a different type of self-defense that might not have been possible. Jin Mook-Young tries to beat Pyongyang as well, and manages to lower his ki by a lot. However, he was defeated after Pyongyang stabbed him with several daggers, and decides to bring the brothers back with him, taking Young Will definitely not make it easy for him, and swallows the pill himself to make the fight even. Then, someone felt extreme anger after taking the pill, and he attacked Punyang right off the bat. Hung Yang knew that. If other people found out about him taking pills to increase his strength, they would definitely try to hunt him down. So he had a good reason to kill Jin Tae-Kyung to protect his secret. Also, the two continued to fight when the side effects of the pills started to catch up with Jin Tae-Kyung. But he didn't know that the effect of Pyongyang's pills was also decreasing. Jin Tae-Kyung found an opening to attack Pyongyang when Sol Wol shot an arrow at him, but he still couldn't defeat it completely. Then he tried to strangle her. Then when Jin Tae-Kyung equipped himself with a nameless sword, which was the only one in his inventory, Jin Tae-Kyung finally stabs him with his 10,000-year sword, and can't believe that this trick really worked. Pyongyang asks for a pill, as he dies, but is clearly repulsed by his happiness opponents who give him advice to stop using drugs. Then in the next life, Jin Tae-Kyung was leveled up after defeating Pyongyang, and fortunately got a full recovery as a reward. He was also very happy with the 10,000-year sword that saved his life. This time tonight, Jin Tae-Kyung found out that his brother was fine. After being hurt by Punyang, and actually looking grateful for it, that's when Wol comes to meet him, and kneels in gratitude in front of him, which makes him very awkward. However, luckily he agreed to come to Jen's family's New Year event, where he had been invited. Besides that, he also voluntarily transferred all the land management to the Jen family, which made it seem like an exaggeration. He was to give him 3 high-level martial arts books. If he agrees to marry her, the young man finds out this old wall is 17 years old, and changes his mind about marrying a minor. Meanwhile, he is ready to spread rumors about his and Jin Tae-Kyung's stunning victory over. But it looks like he has a master who wants him to keep an eye on him to take him later. Jin Tae-Kyung tells his brother about the marriage proposal, but he really didn't believe it, that she chose to marry an idiot like him. In first move, Kyung doesn't want to see her marry for political purposes, but immediately changed his mind. When he heard that he was actually offering 3 martial arts books in exchange, was clearly angry. When Tae-Kyung told him that he had no intention of getting married, as a martial arts lunatic like him would do anything for the books, but of course took the youthful decision to tease him a bit by showing him another martial arts book he had acquired. A while ago, Jin Tae-Kyung told him that he got the book from Pil-jo when his brother started accusing him of stealing from another martial arts family. It was the perfect time for a history lesson. Then, as Moo Kyung tells the story of the Fire Lord who destroyed a number of demon martial artists several decades ago, and he was the one who created the martial arts technique that took Young Had the next day they were preparing to go home, when Wool told Jin Tae-Kyung that he expected an answer to his proposal. Then when they meet again at the end, it is revealed that Jin Tae-Kyung still has Peng Yong's last pill in his inventory. The brothers come home to find Gin Wei celebrating their safe return and taking Young to show them the Pyongyang pill. Furthermore, when they thought that it might be made by Dark Heaven, of course, we pinged, and Jin Tae-Kyung decided to keep the existence of Dark Heaven a secret. Now, and Jin Tae-Kyung is focused on living his life without worrying about it. 3 days later, a government official brought the Shangshur god's invitation to Jin Tae-Kyung, and a new search for him was made. Jin Tae-Kyung informed his brother, and Wei Ping about the invitation, and Jin Tae-Kyung god is actually happy. That he accepted Jin Tae-Kyung's invitation also told him that all these lords were incompetent, because they did nothing. When their people were suffering, it turned out that their current master was the emperor's younger brother, and was only 10 years old. How a kid becomes king around here. The next day they reached Taiyan, which was completely crowded when a boy named Chong asked them for candy. Bring Young introduces himself to Chong and invites him to eat at the end, where he orders everything on the menu. Jin Tae-Kyung is completely confused about his identity, because the only thing he knew about Chong was that he was very hungry and a peak-level martial artist. It turned out that Chong had lived with his grandfather in the mountains all his life, and only came down to finding out if he was stronger than all the peak-level martial artists. Then after that, this is when a strange guy makes fun of them, and it's proven that Tae-Kyung can't handle when random people make fun of him. The random guy's name is revealed to be Jin Tae-Kyung, who is the successor of the cosmic agency that has created new 5 sects in Xinjiang province. However, apparently he had also arrived in the capital to have lunch with the Lord, and accompanied by other children from 5 sacks of young men, obviously fought with him and hit Gente and his friends, which shocked everyone. Observers, because no one had the guts to hit the successor of Cosmic Agent Jinte, stopped fighting. Then, when he found out about his true identity, but Jin Tae-Kyung kept hitting him until he fainted, until Chong volunteered to hit another friend for fun. The mayor arrived the next morning to take the invited guests for a royal lunch and to be with the Lord. But finally, finding children of 5 genders who were seriously injured, took young people to clearly hide the truth, that he beat him all night and told the mayor that Gente was injured. After he fights, hearing that God will probably become very angry at this development, takes a young volunteer to take Tonga to lunch, who becomes very excited to meet a nobleman for the first time in his life. Then on the other side of the promise to advise Lord Commander Li Pong, also arrived at the palace for lunch. Denwei was really worried about bringing the young people to meet Tuan for the first time, after finding out that he was quite disgusting from Jin Tae-Kyung. On the other hand, Li Pong met Hong Chen in the palace, who was a subordinate commander, prefect at the palace, when Il Hook arrives to surprise him. As he belongs to an old rival sect, then Jin Tae-Kyung arrives with another invitation, and strikes up a conversation with Sick Hook, who finds him quite strange and almost gets mad at him for making fun of the Southern EdSec, not liking the cult of the South End already, and shifting to greed. Hong Jin and Li Pong. Then Chung almost starts a fight with the Sick Hook when Tae-Kyung tries to stop them in vain. Il Hook throws a punch at Chong anyway, and ends up getting injured himself. After Chong stopped his attack with his current palm, John revealed the name of his grandfather, who was a popular peak-level martial artist. Later in the moral mirror takes a young figure that John Hawk adopts John as his grandson, when Il Hook reveals his old rivalry with Li Pong, as he abandons his sect after abandoning their fight in the middle of a mountain pass. This is when Chong shows off all the techniques he has learned over the years, forcing everyone to agree that he was indeed the grandson of the great master of martial arts Ongjin, who ordered Sick Hook to leave the palace. After causing all the drama, but he is not ready to listen to it because he wants his business proposal to be approved by God, of course. He had to leave in the end because he was angry that Hong Jin would do business with the Huachong Mountain sect. Later they meet the 10-year-old Tuan, who asks for the youngster's autograph because he's a big fan of lunch starts and forms a hyung bond with Tuan, who is really interested in peak-level masters. Therefore he shifts Tuan's focus to Chong and focuses on his lunch because he's hungry. Of course, his plan didn't work when Hanjin sat next to him and offered his family to be their business partners for trading. He tried to end the conversation after promising to talk to Jin Wick-young about his proposal later. The little master took the young token of his favor and invites himself to his family's annual banquet, but not before revealing that he hates Mu-kyung for not giving him an autograph the last time they met when they started leaving on the carriage. Haikian got a surprise when Hong Jin decided to travel with them to meet the rest of his family. Jin Tae-Kyung is not too happy about Hong Jin traveling with him, but he had no choice. Hong Jin comes to tell Jen that he will come with his brother. This message didn't make him too happy, although until he finds out that he's ready to invest a large amount in their business later. They welcomed Hong Jin with a lot of excitement when Jin Tae-Kyung arrived with Hong Jin and Chong, and it seemed like even Jen Wei could be bought for a few $1 million. Then after that we introduced ourselves to each other, and this is quite a happy moment for them because they have started to get together. So good later bring young boy introduces Chong to Wei Peng and Mu-kyung, and they can't contain their astonishment. Since this is Master's grandson, hopefully this is when he challenges Mu-kyung to a fight, and the two of them started attacking each other immediately, taking the young man obviously unable to hold back his laughter. Because he predicted that his brother would be defeated by Chong, several people from Wasek Mountain were seen coming out looking for Chong, on their grandmaster's orders. Then while the defeated Chinese Jin Muk-young was very impressed about such an easy defeat, he really couldn't wait to surpass every martial arts master out there, including Chong. Then on the other hand, Tae-Kyung wanted to become stronger. After watching the two fight for a while, he tried to circulate the ki, but it ultimately failed. Then Chong told him to leave the ki alone, as it would reach a higher level on its own. Therefore he asked Chong to train him. Chong agreed to help carry Kyung with his training in exchange for lots of sweets. And they started practicing the next day with Mu-jin, as well as training. They include climbing to the top of giant peaks with their hands, and they have to agree with some reluctance. Of course, the young man fell off the cliff several times and was seriously injured. But it doesn't look like that. He was ready to give up, but Mu-jin will fall to his death from the cliff. But when Chong catches him just in time, Kyung doesn't look happy about this bit of practice. But as he started climbing again, he could feel his senses becoming sharper, and he finally made it to the top. This is when they both know that they have to keep climbing 9 more times, and they refuse because their bodies have given up. Then at this time, Chong obviously knew too many ways to keep them moving. Therefore he cut the edge of the cliff to make them fall to the ground. It's been 3 days since Tae-Kyung and Mu-jin climbed the cliff, and they will master the wall climbing techniques that Chung tried to teach them, that they still have to climb the cliff for the last time and invite him to be happy. Because he brought Mu-jin to practice with him. Because the level increases too. Then the two managed to climb the cliff one last time, which made Chong happy. Because he had a lot of practice in store for the two of them to try out. Of course, his secret practice didn't sound so fun for his two students since Genwei was in a political meeting, where he learns about the demonic cult creating unrest in the province and passes the matter on to the province department to deal with, as he had a signed agreement with them. Then he gets a letter from 3 Mount Was sect warriors who are looking for Chong, which makes him excited about a potential visit from Master Mei, who might come looking for his grandson, while Tae-Kyung still trains with Chong and is struck by his extraordinary talent in martial arts. The first time, and he found out that his disciple had started to see through his movements. Jin Tae-Kyung has even started copying his technique, which makes Chong praise him for being a genius. He knew that he had to defeat his new master only once to complete his quest, so he challenges him to fight again. Jin Tae-Kyung adds more points to his agility. Then after that, he started fighting John, who was shocked by his sudden increase in speed. Jin Tae-Kyung started to lose all hope, after fighting for a few seconds because he knew that Chong was too strong for him. But of course he didn't give up and used all his moves to become a peak master in the middle of their fight. He thanks Chong for his help and accepts the fact that it will take time until he could defeat such a monster. Like him. Jin Tae-Kyung is enjoying his new position as peak master. Meanwhile, the hacksaw leader of the Black Snake Squad met with Ching-jen, and the two most powerful chieftains together they planned to attack Jen's family, because they believed that they could defeat all the peak-level martial artists of their family, who were the leaders of the demon tribe as well in this meeting, and couldn't wait to kill Wei Ping, once they agree to divide the wealth equally among themselves. This is when an old man shows up to their meeting place looking for water, and they guessed that he was just a madman wandering the mountains alone, a crazy old man. After all, he defeated Endo in just one blow. The old man left after making them agree to his proposal, but he was still unaware of their little plan to trick him. The old man went looking for an unknown person in Shanghai, while Jin Tae-Kyung gets 10,000-year-old iron as a reward for completing his quest. Of course, he had to find a craftsman to make weapons from minerals. This should be child's play in his eyes. But this was when he came to congratulate him for having reached the peak of master level and the promise to find information about the Fire Emperor for him, so that we can learn the technique later with them to meet craftsmen. It looks like they have a fun road trip ahead of them. The victorious clan is preparing to kill and slaughter the little Jin families scattered across the province. However, when the old man from before interrupted, he on the other hand took the young man who came with his friends to look for Tabo. The blacksmith finally finds him with the help of a little girl, and Tabo immediately recognizes the young man, but refused to help him immediately. Then, after hearing this, the old man decided to go and save Tabo from danger. Then he took a youthful effort to convince Tabo to make him a weapon, but he continued to reject her rudely. Every time Tabo agrees to help him, if he gave him a bottle of clear sky stone extract. After much negotiation, Tabo agreed to make him a weapon after seeing the piece of iron that Young took, since he could now create the masterpiece he always wanted. This is when the old man arrives at Tabo's house and finds Jin Tae-Kyung, that his name is Chun Gong. Chun Gong was quite curious about the peak level that Chong and Jin Tae-Kyung had reached at such a young age. But when he suddenly comes too close to Take, Young asks about his real-life identity. Chun Gong wants to know how Jin Tae-Kyung feels the key, but don't believe that he can use the system status window, because it sounds ridiculous. He starts torturing Young, when Chong steps in to help him by fighting against the old man. But after that, Chun Gong was surprised at Chong, who used a lot of riding sex techniques, and asked about his relationship with Master. Perhaps it turned out that he had met his grandfather a long time ago and revealed himself to be the Fire Lord. Then after that, they started chatting about Mr. Mei when Chun Gong focused his attention back on taking him and interrogating him about his family. It seemed like the old man was friends with his treacherous grandfather, but because he was clearly not happy about taking young people killed him. A few months ago, during the battle attack, Chun Gong took a young boy for killing his grandfather, but he blocked her attack, which caused a huge explosion. That's when the old man who took Young had the same abilities as him and was quite hesitant to kill him. Then a few hours later, Jin Tae-Kyung woke up, and was actually happy to have survived the old man's attack. His happiness was short-lived when he found out that Chun Gong wanted to see him downstairs and decided to run away, because he thought that Joe Pill was his student. However, he would definitely try to avenge his death. Of course, the old man was too smart for him, as he found him before he could escape and ordered him to meet him immediately. Jin Tae-Kyung tells the truth about his fight with Pill Joe to Chun Gong, and it turns out he has been looking for his student all this time. However, because he was unaware of his death, on the other hand, Jin Tae-Kyung was quite happy with the arrival of New Year's Day, as his negotiations were going well too with him, and they discussed the appearance of the Master Marshal, who had wiped out the entire Thousand Clan. However, the victory of course Wei Ping was a bit bitter about Jin Tae-Kyung's two younger brothers not being present for the New Year celebrations. But he realized that he couldn't do anything for now. On the other hand, the Southern Ed sect had also gone to teach the Jin family a lesson. Because of their dismissal, Chong-gong tells Tae-Kyung the story about him taking Pil Jo as his student. However, that was until he started causing trouble around their province by killing innocent women and travelers. But he made the mistake of letting it slide. Of course, he witnessed Jo's pills killing innocent people with his own eyes. Then one day, he wanted to make him paralyzed, to the point of Pills Jo threatened to commit suicide if he didn't let him. It seemed like Chong-gong cared too much about him to let him die before his eyes. Therefore, he let him go without Chungango. Early took on a youthful debt to stop Jo's pills, and he even apologized for his reckless behavior. However, not before the next morning took away young hope that the problem between him and the old man was resolved, when he realized that it was New Year's Day, which meant he had to do it. Go home as soon as possible. Chang-gong also leaves after entrusting Jo's pill items for Young to take, and Taebo promises to finish making the spear. One time Jin Tae-Kyung met a civet cat, and his two colleagues from the mountain took action after they were almost attacked by one of them. The sect leaders who tried to make a scene during the New Year celebrations of the three were in disbelief that they were quite well known in Taiwan when Jinwei invited them to come to his estate to speak. On the other hand, Jin Tae-Kyung is still on his way home when Chong gives him the idea that Chang-gong might make him his disciple. One day, and it definitely lifted his spirits for a while. Jin Tae-Kyung doesn't seem all that impressed with the weasel and his accomplishments, even though he may be the new sect leader. However, since he believes that he can surpass a warrior at his level on their journey, they meet one of his weasel friends named Jewel Wu, who is quite a strong man. And the giant, of course, took the young decision to fight him when Wei Pang stopped them from beating each other up and embarrassed their family. He really knows how to be in the right place at the right time. Wei Pang started taking them to Jin Tae-Kyung. While they try not to hit each other on the way, takes Young believe that he will beat Chul Wu in a matter of seconds, if they are not disturbed, but there is no way to know for now, as Mu immediately comes out to Chong and tells him that they have to take him back to Mount Wasak. And of course, they were lost for words when Chong refused to go with them. Therefore, they decided to talk to the youngster to help him convince Chong to return. Aren't we still unable to know Heaven's dark plans? However, he decided to continue the New Year's banquet with a straight face as the banquet started. Wool Chul couldn't stop gushing so woolly beauty when she came to say hello to pick up the tools. Then after that, he tried to tease her, while he only has eyes for Tae-Kyung, which makes the poor guy depressed. Then Chudo Hwan from the Iron Blood sect asked Jin Tae-Kyung for permission to spar with Wu, which made him excited. Ate him after a broken heart does one, and Chul Wu starts banning. And it's clear that Chul Wu is much stronger with his throwing fists when he beats his opponent to the punch. He continued to defeat one opponent after another, but ended up challenging Jin Tae-Kyung in the end. Because Chul Wu showed so much interest in him, Jin Tae-Kyung had to accept this challenge to avoid being called a weak man who made the weasel nervous. However, since he did so, he didn't want his brother to beat up the youngest member of the Jen family. Chul Wu and the young boy continued to attack each other, but they didn't seem to hit their opponents at the right time, even taking out his spear at one point. But ultimately getting this hurt himself is when Chul Wu decides to get even angrier and breaks Young's spear, which he doesn't appreciate. Jin Tae-Kyung opened his status bar to increase his strength, and Chul Wu's dodge attack after getting ready to finish this fight. For goodness sake, Jin Tae-Kyung has managed to beat Chul Wu to Mu Sung's surprise because he has never seen a martial artist like him. Now he could truly understand why Chong wanted to stay beside Jin Tae-Kyung and apologize to him for showing disrespect to their family. Tae-Kyung is declared the winner of the competition, when the cult leader Southern Ed appears with his soldiers. Then after that, he looked for him, and Chong the sect leader was introduced as a sick song, because the hook was bad and the weasel immediately recognized him as a tiger swordsman to pay homage. Ilsong clearly wants payment for his sect's humiliation, after Chong beats Bill Hooks in the Lord's palace and orders him to lock up the Jen family until their complaints are heard for the first time. Then after that, he drew his weapon at this moment ready to kill anyone who stood in his way. He was threatened to stay away from taking Young by voice, but no one knows who owns it for now, making the screaming song even more frustrating. As he moves forward to attack Jin Tae-Kyung when Chung Gong appears to save him. He was dealing with Song Gil and it seemed like they knew each other before Chung Gong kept hitting his old acquaintance. While Gin's family starts to look at him like their hero, that's when Chung Gong hints that Jin Tae-Kyung is his new student, which surprises everyone at the banquet. Chung Gong makes Tae-Kyung apologize to Song-sik for raising his voice at him. However, because he is the elder of the sack, of course Song-gil still harbors hatred, because he had never been humiliated and promised like this, that he will make sure to punish Jin Tae-Kyung and his family. And then, after that, when Chung Gong threatened to burn down his entire sect if he touched Jin Tae-Kyung or the Jin family and made him leave with his henchmen. However, he thanked Chung Gong and invited him to join the banquet later. Chung Gong gave his sword to Tae-Kyung to make his enemies afraid of him. It seemed like the old man had finally warmed up to him. 2 days later, Chung Gong's visit brought the young man to perform body purification on him, which would make him more suitable for martial arts. The old man clearly knew that his body was already in good balance, but continuing with the process naturally took the young man a little disappointed, because he expected dramatic changes afterwards. But he made the wise choice to remain silent. Then John Gong met with Jen Weed to tell him that Jin Tae-Kyung might have a natural martial body that surprised his older brother. However, the increase is not reasonable. Young in martial arts finally made sense to Jin Wick-young as he told it. Chan Gong that he had only studied martial arts for 3 months and had already become a peak master. After hearing this, Chung Gong wondered about the level he could reach if he teaches young people. But ignoring his own thoughts later, an instructor from Heavenly Martial Arts Academy named Yui met Jin Tae-Kyung. Then after that, asked him to become a student at his academy. Jin Tae-Kyung really started to consider the offer when Chung Gong told you to let go of what was his. You questioned Chung Gong's relationship with Jin Tae-Kyung. When the old man finally agreed that he was ready to make him a disciple, the game of jealousy had succeeded, and Chung Gong even announced it to the whole world, that they should remove their hands from their students. He would rather join the academy, but he blackmailed Chung Gong into agreeing to teach martial arts. It seems like Chung Gong really enjoys being called master. After a long time, and he hopes to make Jin Tae-Kyung stronger than before, we pay Jin Wick-young's update about their better position in the province. After Chung Gong's announcement, and it seems like the Jen family is getting richer and more influential than ever on the other hand, Chung Gong begins his disciple training as he instructs the young people to fight him, which he must do. But after that, he took a step back to a moment that sounded simple enough. The two started fighting, and Chung Gong found out that his disciple was very strong, because he had to use a lot of his strength to dodge her attack. One-punch technique to make his master take a step back. Young's one-punch technique proved to be more powerful than before. Since he made Chung Gong take a step back, this unique skill obviously tickled his master, who roped him into offering him some elixir to get his energy back. He consumed potions and elixirs that hurt him a little, because John Gong wanted all his impure energy out of his system. He took it a step further by opening his veins, which hurt his student even more, and continued to do so until he was completely tired of being proud of Jin Tae-Kyung, because endured all the pain, and he woke up. Then he feels a little different. Chung Gong tells him that he woke up after 7 days, but Jin Tae-Kyung doesn't really mind. He would be in this normal state when Jin Wick-young appeared to tell him that they were invited to a grand celestial banquet where martial artists from all over the world gathered. However, he didn't show much interest in the banquet and waited for the next training session with his master. As he was going to sleep, took the young log from the game to eat ramen in the real world. When he saw Jin Ho at his new house, Song Jin Ho told Jin Ta-Kyung that he needed to stay with him for a while unless his friend was clearly not happy about him sneaking into the capsule, taking the young man, refusing to let him stay in his house and getting another house from his guild. Then for Song Jin Ho, and they decided to move to another place together. Then he found that another gate was opened around him district, where monsters were making trouble. The main monster that appeared was an ogre and rank hunter. Chol Su tried to conquer it with her team. Then they were about to escape when a number of ogres came out of the gate, but Tae-Hyun arrived just in time to save the day. And kill the monsters yourself. Tae-Kyung defeat all the ogres and get all the benefits from completing this quest. On the other side, the Peace Guild building was converted into a palace where Choi met with the guild members along with Butler Kim. They were all waiting for Tae-Kyung because he was late for the raid, when they saw him on TV giving an interview to a news channel. He was called a hero for defeating all the ogres and gaining popularity everywhere. As soon as he reached the Peace Union building where reporters were waiting to be interviewed, Jin Tae-Kyung really wasn't happy about being hounded by the media. Choi therefore had to step in to make them all leave by threatening to sue the reporter for breaking his antique watch that they were driving. In Choi's car, when picking up young Myung-hun's favorite hunter shows up to chat with him, Jin Tae-Kyung has been a fan of his all his life. And that's why he couldn't believe that Myung-hun standing in front of him. Both started talking to each other about their experiences during the raid and their lives as hunters. When Myung-hun offers to take Young to join his guild, he promises to make young hunters stars. But he obviously had to turn down the offer, as most of his offers contained TV appearances rather than fighting in raids. Going to gates and fighting monsters definitely suited him better than being in front of the camera. Of course, Myung-hun wasn't happy about being rejected. However, taking the young leaves him to go to the Hunter Association, where he obtained his ranking license from the chairman himself. Then he raids inside the gate and fights all the monsters when Jin Tae-Kyung tells Choi that Moon-hun survived the attack. After he was accused of killing his best friend Min-soo, when Choi found out that Myung-hun had made a proposal to take the young boy, he called a meeting where the former hero hunter suggested that they should hold a collaboration attack. Maybe Choi was very happy to accept his invitation for a collaboration attack, but it seemed like he had an ulterior motive since he discussed his secret plan with his boss. Was the Peace Guild fell into a trap. The next morning, Jin Tae-Kyung wakes up quite excited about his raid with Mun-hung when he meets his team members in their car discussing the ranking gates, and they are about to enter when Choi finds out that the location had been changed at the last second. He proposes to cancel the raid because they need to prepare for where they are going when Jin Tae-Kyung asks them to continue. Because he was ready to fight the cable, the whole group entered the rank gate when Mayung gave him a magic necklace to keep his strength. Then he took it off as he didn't need to maintain his power and lent it to one of his guild members. But that's when a Cable appeared in front of them. When Myung-hun showed off his skills by killing Cable with one attack instead of impressing him, Jin Tae-Kyung thought that Myung-hun was just a weak hunter, but hoped to find a stronger side next time during the raid. A number of ogres began to attack, taking the young man. However, suddenly the other party members were impressed by his fighting skills. Myung-hun also has to agree that he is very good with his amazing moves and attacks, because he was dealing with so many ogres alone. He ordered his guild members to find stronger boss monsters or wire them, because he wanted to make Young regret his decision to reject her proposal. Then Jin Tae-Kyung finds out that the necklace given to her is supposed to attract monsters to her, and she can't believe that her biggest celebrity has betrayed her. Jin Tae-Kyung is really disappointed with Myung-hun. When his men came to inform him that the rest of his team had been killed by a monstrous Cable that was certainly on the level of a monster called Monster, but definitely one of the strongest monsters out there. When Jin Tae-Kyung revealed that he knew about Moon-hun's evil intentions and ordered him to get out of the gate, Jin Tae-Kyung decides to deal with the monster alone and tells the other guild members not to interfere. The trick was when a large winged wire and landed in front of him, which angered the young because it was the same monster that killed his old guild members. Taking it, he started attacking the monster and tried to inflict as much pain on its body as he could. Then after that, the monster started talking to him and healed his whole body in an instant. The name of the cord was Karis's one eye, and had been waiting to kill the human who took his eye for a long time. The person who injured him several years ago. Jin Tae-Kyung is shocked after witnessing Charis heal herself, but manages to pluck out her other eye as well and defeats the monster after a fierce battle. Towards him after he finally killed Karis, and it was pretty clear that they were all very proud of him. A few moments later, Tae-Kyung ran to Moon-hun, who has been waiting to ambush them as he is clearly looking for a right. Take his opponent's young attack, and Myung-hun found it hard to believe that this young hunter had become stronger than him. But meanwhile, Butler Cam is dealing with Moon-hun's henchmen, because they made the mistake of trusting him. That he was just an ordinary person. This is when Myung-hun surrendered and asked him to spare his life, but attacks him from behind, which makes Tae-Kyung land the killing blow. Then took Young out of the gate and gave an interview announcing it to the whole world. That he had killed Myung-hun. A thorough investigation into the incident was carried out, And everyone knows Myung-hoon's true intentions since the attack was filmed. Of course, Jin Tae-Kyung is off the hook. However, an officer still advised him to keep a low profile for the time being. Later, taking young people donated large amounts of money to charity, which further increased its popularity. Plus, he can't wait to spend the rest of the money on his family, too. But first, he had to return to Murim to learn martial arts from Chong. Back to the world of Murim. Jin Tae-Kyung tells Jin Wik-young that he left his master for training, which naturally makes his older brother quite sentimental. However, before leaving, Jin Tae-Kyung went to meet Jin Muk-young, who was still training in isolation, and said goodbye to his brother, after telling him that the Fire Lord himself would train him for a year. Then he said goodbye to his other friends before Changong dragged him along on their journey, as they had a long way to go. In front of them, and they have to walk all the way to Hook's goal of causing chaos in the capital, because he was a member of the Great Eastern Heavenly Sect and it seemed like he enjoyed torturing people too much. And when the young pickup stopped her in her tracks and made her leave the restaurant where they were eating, this is when the other members of the Great Eastern Celestial Sects seemed to take revenge. But a monk named Amitabha Buddha stopped them from starting a fight by confronting the troublemakers. After that, Jin Tae-Kyung watched as Buddha Amit Ba dealt with all the warriors of the sect, before turning his attention to the master and disciple pair. He revealed that Chonggong's old friend Hongdao Monk had summoned them and brought them to his master immediately. Then they created Hongdao, who believed that Jin Tae-Kyung was a rising star that appeared in the sky. But of course, no one else takes it seriously. The two old friends chase all night while drinking 1,000-year-old viper venom. And after kicking young Miss out of the room, they would bring young Kid to learn all the secret techniques of Chunggong sect. Would he be able to attend the great heavenly banquet in the following year? Then how did the native know about Heaven's dark plan to bring the young man to finally succeed in defeating his brother? In a large palace, seen in the sky, there was a flash of light so bright, a very bright light appeared with lightning and dark clouds. From that lightning flashed in all directions, in a very chaotic condition in the palace due to the lightning. On the other side seen dozens of dragons weakened and died unconscious. And these dragons began to descend from the sky. Then, they fell near the castle's castle, and on the other side, they saw a human who was located in a dark corner of the palace. And then, the old man who saw this immediately stood up on the castle, and he said, even the almighty dragon had died. Next to the man, the old man in a portal appears, and then, a black-haired young man comes out. Otto says that their world cannot be safe. He is ready to burn his whole body and soul with the help of Dragon Time to pave the way to the past. Then, Otto's parents asked him not to lose hope and give a chance to the new generation to raise the youth sincerely and believe that with the wisdom of an elder, it is possible to change the future to a better direction. Then, the old man said, that he was one of them who knew the secrets of time better than anyone and also kept an eye on their living quarters. This world in time ceased to exist and was destroyed, and also those who could leave this world. Then the elder struck the floor with his staff, forming a gust of golden wind around the citadel. And then, it seemed to contain a lot of knowledge, and then it flew in that gust of wind. And the old man was attracted to a book with a gold cover and a dragon. Then he said something. Let people who have no possessions in this world, and they will write the destiny of mankind. Then a golden halo formed in the sky which was absorbed by the dark creatures. And it seemed like he who saw that said something, that the weak tried to fight for it. But in such a struggle it would be futile and made them even more miserable. And seen in the eyes of the strongest, this being turned out to be a forbidden god, he continued said that all these people's miserable hopes would be swallowed up by despair. And then they would be stuck in it like in a swamp, and the old man told Otto that the forbidden god wanted to destroy him because he was wrapped in black tentacles. The creature believed that people had led him through the ages and falls into ruins, and with hope this sad, they turned to dust. The elder proudly raised his head and said that even if they were only dust, they would die as heroes they would remember, and forbidden gods would see their final wrath. Then he says that their age is coming to an end, and soon they will all perish. Then a holy man is seen pleading with the loyal soldiers, and they are urging them to join in the sacrifice to the big fireworks on Judgment Day. Then, war follows him and says they will die. Without regrets, in the name of a bright future, those people of antiquity bring gifts to the future. It will travel through the Milky Way and will travel to the distant past to sow the seeds of hope for the future of mankind, and for his safety, these shall be called generations. An ancient wasteland, where dangerous animals and monsters run rampant, this generation will have animal tamers fighting alongside them, and against monsters extracting the best resources necessary for survival beyond the shelter. Many dangerous bloodthirsty monsters will be waiting for them, where death is their eternal companion and awaits at every step. The backlit main base has stood in the treacherous territory of the wasteland. For several hundred years, the current owner of the base is an all-powerful master, who creates special camps and new Tamer training methods, which in turn significantly reducing the death rate among the civilians. His training methodology was the key to ensuring that the base existed for hundreds of years within the Blacklight Castle. Then, a young man with dark blue hair stood up to one of the many people, and his attention was attracted by a notice hanging on a sign where it was written that there was no place for slackers, and in the Blalight boot camp, those people whose animals laid eggs and none hatched would be sent to the gathering team. If someone went against it, would express their dissatisfaction and raise objections, and they would be immediately killed for disobedience in violation of orders. Then the man was holding an egg in his hand that just didn't hatch. He was sitting in a barrel, and it was heavy because he didn't understand how it happened. The fact that the egg didn't hatch completely ended his future because he wouldn't be able to earn money and support himself and his sister. And besides, they are orphans. Tomorrow is the last day, and he has no sign that the egg will hatch. Then he felt very embarrassed. Then he saw a golden ball flying in the sky, and didn't have time to understand what it was because this ray of light fell directly on his head. This was the spell Elder used. The man lay unconscious for several minutes. Then a strange picture appeared in his head, in which many dragons and riders were sitting on the biggest and maybe dangerous. The dragons flew away somewhere, in the distance, and disappeared from his field of vision. In the subconscious, someone pulled the young man and asked him to woke up. Opened his eyes, the man found himself lying on the ground, and realized that the night had changed. Today, another man, more likely a guard or bodyguard, stabbed the man's cheek with a whip. This man looked at the young man angrily and asked, "Was he sleeping here all night?" Then he said it was younger. The students couldn't spend the night there or near the castle because the young man didn't answer. The man exploded and started shouting at him and asked what he was doing all night near the castle. The man didn't understand what he was talking about. The patrolman trying to remember what happened during the night. He remembered the thunder dragon and the horseman, and he also remembered that in this dream he tamed the great red dragon. The guardian was even angry and asked the young man that he really spoke alone, and he ignored the question the man asked him, and then waved his whip and said that this youngster thought he was an idiot and slapped the man across the face. Then after that made his cheeks red and blisters. Then the guard said that he heard that today the man will join the vagabonds from the village of Atrata and go to the wasteland to finish the food. The man smiles evilly and asks if he will be able out of the base and back alive. He swung his whip again, intending to hit the man. But then another guard stopped him, noticing that the young man's egg had broken. The man happily took the egg in his hands and happily shouted that he had managed to suffer for 3 years, and all for good reason. He was proud of himself, and that his efforts had paid off. The guards were very surprised that this rubbish happened, and they apologized to him, saying that there was a big misunderstanding. Then the young man's name was Su Huan. He stood up and held an egg in his hand, and looked at the guardians with distaste. Then he said that he would tell the headmaster that Su Huan had completed his apprenticeship and had become a master. He's certain that Su Huan would soon reach new heights in the future. A statue of that woman with brown hair and uniform appeared in front of them. She turned out to be the main mentor of the Blacklight Tower, and she said that it was useless to report, that Su Huan had completed apprentice because he saw everything with his own eyes. Then the female approached the young man and with a smile told him that now he would be able to interact with the egg. She decided to try to cooperate and leaned her forehead against him and said that she had waited so long until her little friend hatched. And from the egg, he replied with a squeak. Hearing this, the man smiled happily and said that he said that was great. More and more young animal tamers appeared in the black light. And this couldn't be displeased. The mentor's sweet smile was replaced by a serious expression. As he saw the abrasion on the man's cheek, he asked the young man where it came from, without a twinge of conscience directing him. He fingered at the guard who hit him with a whip. He asked the guard about how dare he hit his master. He said he would reward him with 20 lashes, and after that, he would send him to the wasteland to get some food. Then, that was where he was about to receive his punishment. The guard knelt in front of the mentor and begged Su Huan to save him. But the young man didn't hear him, and left after they entered the castle, where they met the owner of the guard base. He asked Liu if Su Huan was an outsider. It was only the first time in half a year, and he said that everything was true. He heard that Su Huan would join the search party, but suddenly the eggs started to hatch. That's why he thought this person should be rewarded. Then, he turned to Su Huan and said that he was a stubborn young man who was able to make it through the last moment. The man had 2 choices. The first was according to how many beasts he had in the egg. This was the scaly lizard. He would be able to give him a piece of freshness. The dragon, which contains high-grade dragon blood, which will speed up the hatching process. After hatching, he will be much stronger than other scaly lizards. Besides that, there is a small chance that he will be infected with a drop of dragon blood, and in future this will help him become stronger. Then, too, when the time came to get the second pet, he would let Su Huan choose 1 egg from his collection. After listening to the owner of the base, Su Huan said that it was better to have it in his hands than the beetle in the sky. So he chose the first choice. He said he would arrange for the dragon scales to be delivered this afternoon. He also said that he hoped Su Huan would not forget his kindness in the future and would contribute to Blacklight, and the young man said with a smile that he would do it. And then, apart from the castle itself, the Blacklight was divided into 2 internal and external zones. Members of the wealthy community lived in the inner zone, and there was also a cleaner environment. In this zone, the outer zone was otherwise considered a bad and dirty representative of the lower class. Living in Su Huan, living the same in the outer zone in a small, cozy wooden house. In the house, he was met by a girl who immediately slapped him and started scolding the man he said he was worried about because he was out all night. This morning, he went to the Zone Inn to find a man there. However, he couldn't enter, and he had to wait at the gate. All this time, he was very worried here. Their fight was interrupted by a knock on the door, followed by a young man who turned around to demand him and said that the owner of the castle ordered him to get money. And what is needed for Su Huan? The messenger asked to store all these safely and use them rationally. He wished Su Huan and the girl success in martial arts and raising animals. Then, after hearing about the beast, the girl hugged Su Huan and said that their parents would be very happy to know that the man did everything. No wonder they sold their last home, because her brother would become an important person in society. Then, Su Huan told his younger sister that he would still stay in the outer zone. The girl, who noticed that the messenger man had not left, said that it was time for him to get ready for work. She said that the dragon hand should be well behaved and not mess around while he was far away. The 2 people saw each other. Significantly, the messenger left Su Huan alone. With a strange gift, he took the pouch and took out the dragon scales. From the golden light emanating from the scales hit the person's head, and the person's eyes rolled up. A golden book with a dragon on the cover appeared. In his mind was written information about the scaly lizard, where at the end it was written that the ordinary lizard would become a thunderstorm. The youth dragon came to himself and exhaled. Later, Su Huan understood that the scaly lizard would turn into a dragon. The adult dragon lizard was a high-end species that could easily destroy a small town, and what he had was a middle-class species. These scaly lizards were 2 completely different types apart from money, and the scales he was given a bloodroot dragon as a gift that looks like a brown root. The young man wonders if he will be of any use to him. A girl so talented that she ends up surprising the owner of the castle and becomes his apprentice. The first animal she raises is a dangerous high-class species. Then, if Su-hwan could raise a lizard dragon, he might succeed as well and be able to become the castle owner's disciple. After being burned by this idea, the man ran off to the medicine shop, where he spent money on materials needed to achieve the goal he had set for himself. After gathering all the materials, he started the ritual in the golden dragon spirit flying out of the egg. But nothing else happened. Because the spirit returned to the egg, the man didn't fully understand whether his experiment was successful, and who is now in the egg-scaly lizard or dragon lizard. The training ground was lit by the light of the sun, and it had just risen and dozens of students were already practicing without sparing themselves. Liu observed the newcomers and noticed that some of them were chatting and not fully practicing. One person was telling the others that Su-hwan's egg was even not yet hatched. And he hasn't attended training in 4 days. The others laugh and reply he's probably dead. But the second one told him he couldn't say such things, so they would just wait until the main mentor dealt with him. Then demanded Su-hwan enter the training ground. The late person met him and immediately started telling him that he had to attend the training, in common rows with everyone and not miss them. The newcomers saw this picture and whispered that he had come. Then Su-hwan told his mentor that he had to skip the training, but he had a good reason for that. He asked what the reason was, and it would be better if the reason was really serious. Here Su-hwan turned to the animals in his bag and asked him to came out of the cute blue animal with golden horns, got out of the backpack and snorted and greeted everyone on the playground. Everyone froze in mute gifs, because this is not a lizard, scaly but a very dangerous species of dragon lizard. Liu approached Su-hwan and said that they should go to the castle owner because this case went beyond the line. The castle owner said it is a very dangerous species. And then, it was from this young man that he first hatched, because of something Su-hwan didn't understand. What the hell was this? And who gave him the egg? He ordered to immediately notify the one in charge of this, and that they found this person and found him a reward of 3 months. How dare they mix scaly lizards and insidious dragon lizards? Not only Su-hwan, but also other students to make such eggs almost deprived Su-hwan of the future, which is why the eggs hatched so late. For Su-hwan also said that thanks to his work during this, the youth had been through a lot, and was about to gain the first important experience. He received the most ordinary scaly lizard egg, and now he had the most dangerous kind of the highest level in his body. Then, the dragon lizard hand, and this is a great achievement despite all the suffering of Su-hwan in the past. Baoju is sure that this is just a start, because he is sure that the young man will go far. Su Heyman said he will live up to his expectations. Baoju said that he was very happy that they had such a talented and persistent young man in the castle. They and asked if Su-hwan wanted to be his disciple. This question made Liu faint, because he never thought that after a genius, that Baoju would accept someone else as a disciple. Then, Su-hwan answered his question in the affirmative, about whether he wanted to be his disciple, and even the animal rejoiced at its owner's optimistic attitude. Baoju told the youth and mentor that tonight he would organize a banquet where there would be tutor and mentor, those who would unconditionally free. They would celebrate the arrival of the talented Tamer, and his new disciple Su-hwan were hanged that same night. A grand banquet was arranged where everyone celebrated until the night. Su-hwan and his sister returned home safely and healthy because they were accompanied by the mayor's bodyguard while in the carriage. Su-hwan told his sister that he now received 100 gold pieces a month for the maintenance of his pet old house, and then Su-hwan would pay for his education. He pinched his sister's cheeks and proudly said that he was happy for his brother because he wouldn't be able to earn so much money in 3 years. Su-hwan told him to rest. The most striking difference between ordinary creatures and dangerous species is whether they have the innate ability to use magic. The ability to use magic is called magical talent, and talent is a key factor in determining the strength of the dragon lizard beast as one of the most dangerous species. possessed by nature, a special penchant for the use of magic. In addition to the most common evil attacks, there are 6 other skills, namely Dragon Dream, which can quickly restore strength and regenerate wounds received in battle. And that is the power of the dragon. The dragon also uses the power of the earth, which is a technique that greatly destroys the forces of nature, allowing it to use its natural energy as well as its resources for the use of magic combinations of natural forces in sleep. The dragon makes the dragon lizard so tenacious, so that its strength increases and becomes invincibility. The last skill that is not less important is an overpowering ability. The most powerful technique with destructive power and close to the power of the dragon's breath. After reading this, Su Huan turned to the dragon and said that he believed that the dragon would become a real animal master. The man stroked the animal lying on the table. Because he fell asleep in the bowl of food, Su Huan noticed that the beast had grown nearly 1.5 times in 1 second. They were shocked that they didn't know that dangerous species grew so fast. The next morning, Bao Zhu and Su Huan meet in the training room, where the teacher says that Dragon Heng is very talented. He suggests testing the strength of the magic elements and choosing one that Su Huan will focus more on. This research will help to understand what does the beast and Su Huan himself prefer, and what aspects do they need to cultivate more, so that there is no problem in the battle, which may be related to insufficient combat training. Also said that his beast element is evil, and shows a ring on his finger. With the red stone starting to emit color, Su Huan looked at the decoration with interest and realized that it was an animal talisman. Animal amulets are objects that allow him to store large beasts inside you, where he can rest and recover. After all, the beasts become so large that it will be very difficult to maintain them without using certain tricks. Therefore, Tamirs often use various ornaments in the form of amulets as previously mentioned. Animals are often very large, and because of this they also grow rapidly. But it is very problematic to keep them in normal conditions of growth. They often annoy the owner, and their size reduces the possibilities of the house or room as much as possible. Then the goosebeast's shoes were the scarlet wolf, whose main element was evil. The wolf was crimson in color. He was very large, 3 meters tall. Bao Zhu said that his wolf was a representative of the evil elemental beast of the 2nd rank, which he did not often meet with Master Tamirs. He was also his prime beast before, and by the way, he is very suitable for training dragons, because they are perfectly combined with each other. Hearing this, Su Huan was very surprised, because it is very hard to believe that these beasts are combined. The red wolf is the most dangerous species. It combines not only purebred, but also the fury of true animals, which is very harmonious. Together with Su Huan's pet, Bao Zhu asked the young man to put the beast on the floor. Then, and confided in him, Su Huan put down the dragon, and he stared at the red wolf with fear, because he was bigger, taller, and stronger than him. The wolf's eyes glowed red, but his words lit up in the darkness. The beast looked at the young man for support, but he raised his hand and said not to rely on him, but to overcome the fear of the wolf himself. Also ordered the red wolf to use evil breath to show the child how to do it. Then, the wolf opened its mouth to take air, and formed a red ball with a black outline intending to attack the beast. But Bao Zhu stopped it and said that they succeeded in activating the power of the beast, because a black and purple aura formed around it. Bao Zhu said that the dragon was noisy and smart, and Su Huan watched the dragon with an encouraging smile. Bao Zhu said that the animal Su Huan has just comprehended the evil element for the first time. Now it is the purple smoke, the initial form of evil mind breath. The dragon really has extraordinary talent. Because it has seen its first step, he can understand that he has serious potential. Therefore the husband said that he would no longer need the scarlet wolf, and recalled the dragon-blowing ring, and he breathed a sigh of relief. But the animal's joy didn't last long, because Bao Zhu summoned the earth platypus, who was a trio formed from magic essence, and intimidated the earth animal. Bao Zhu told them to play with each other too, but the dragon grabbed the leg of Su Huan, who was hiding from the beast. Su Huan was afraid of the beast, so he asked the teacher to stop. Baoju put his finger on his chin and seriously said that Su Huan was right, regarding which the young man exhaled with relief. But Baoju said that the young man's truth is that the platypus is too simple, so he called another beast, one of the most powerful beasts, Harmony, Flint, and evil lava dragon Tyrannosaurus. Tyrannosaurus is much bigger than that, the previous two beasts. Su Huan asked Baoju if the dragon was rare, and he replied that the man said that the young man was lucky because the first dragon hatched, because this is extraordinary luck. Without Su Huan, the dragon will most likely never get the second egg that many Timurs dream of, owning a dragon, but not everyone succeeds. Su Huan, after listening to Baoju's words, remembered the grimoire he met, and understood that the grimoire from the ancient dragon ritual was a very serious thing. Baoju asked the animals, "Is he ready to play with Tyrannosaurus lava?" But the dragon trembled with fear, and the man gave an order to the Tyrannosaurus. The man wanted to see how the development of dragons react. Su Huan, hanging the lava monster, let out another roar, but stronger than the previous one. The roar was like a strong gust of wind, but at the same time exerting a terrifying pressure, which was why the young man said that he felt like a small boat about to capsize from this huge monster. The man crossed his arms, trying to protect himself from this pressure, trying to stand up. But Baoju approached him from behind and took him to a safe distance, saying that the young man might be injured. Baoju turned his head to the dragon, Su Huan, who was still standing on his paws, and said that he defended well. So the man ordered his beast to strengthen the attack. The giant Tyrannosaurus Rex saw the dragon like a predator and made another roar, but much stronger than the previous two, and Baoju told the young man that he wanted to see if his dragon could withstand such an attack. The man's eyes opened more and more shocked when he saw that the little animal was still standing on its four claws without moving. From where it was, he was shocked, saying that although the dragon was still very weak, he still tried to use the lesser dragon's power against the strength. Tyrannosaurus Rex, the highest level dragon. Su Huan has a very high level of magical talent, but Baoju didn't know if he would be able to break through the ghastly terror of the Tyrannosaurus lava. Hearing these words, Su Huan hung happily lit up because this meant his dragon was strong and cool. Baoju remembered the dragon scales he gave the man and asked if he uses it. Su Huan told the teacher that he used it immediately. After receiving, the man said that it seems that the dragon has assimilated well the substance that is in the scales. Maybe the animal can even get the dragon's blood, which helps him increase his talent by 2 times. The teacher gave the young man a black book with intricate gold patterns on the cover. Baoju asked the man to accept his gift, for in this book he has collected methods and problems which will assist the man in the development of his beast. There's also an interesting method in the book that cultivates the man's reasoning, and also asked the young man not to forget about his spiritual training. When he was training his dragon, mind power was personal strength, which was the most important basis for the beast training. Su Huan smiled and sincerely thanked the teacher for such a precious gift. After leaving the castle, Su Huan was finally able to buy back his family's old house that his sister had mentioned before. Everything was fine, although he couldn't make such a house in his memory, but there was a feeling of relief in the young man's heart. Before telling Su Qing the good news, Su Huan decided to go to his workplace to meet him and picked him up to give him a nice surprise. The fun he had repeatedly told his brother about, and now his dream had come true. After a few minutes turning into an alley, Su Huan heard a heart-rending scream made by a girl, but he realized that the scream belonged to his sister, Su Qing. The young girl was surrounded by 2 black dogs that were barking, growling, and intending to attack the girl, who screamed in fear, and to chase away the beast in front of Su Qing were 3 men. One of whom was the owner of these dogs. One of the men, who grinned viciously, told Raja that his dog only wants to play with him and nothing more. Then, by the girl's behavior in regards to that, they started to laugh at Su Qing's helpless situation. The guys smiled like victors in this life, and told her that if she joined in tonight and agreed to play with the guys, then their dog wouldn't play with him. In which case, they would have taken the dogs from him. but this was only if he agreed to the terms set beforehand. Then Su-hwan appeared from around the corner, an angry youth holding a brick in his hand, and told the people that later he would play with him. These bricks, as they threatened his sister. He ran at the men and swung at them, but they dodged the blow, so the man shot one of the dogs, who then fell down dead and bleeding. Su-hwan covered his sister with himself, pushed her back, and told the three people that they were street rats who had no understanding of respecting girls, so let them stay away from Su-ching. He turned to one of the men and said that if his father owns the estate, that doesn't mean he can do everything he has to, still has respectable understanding. The man looks shocked at his dog named Charlie, and that dies. He gives orders to the second dog, Jack, to attack Su-hwan and bite his throat to avenge Charlie. The man stared at Su-hwan fiercely, because he believed that his attack on the dog was unfair. Jack rushed to the man protecting his sister, who asked him to run, and left him not to harm himself. The man had no time to react, and the dog was a few centimeters away from his face. But the dragon did not let hurt its owner, jumped out from behind the owner's back and bit the throat of the killing dog, which tore a piece of flesh from its neck. Su-hwan praised the animal. The person whose dog was killed pulled out a knife like his friends with intentions to slaughter Su-hwan. But, Su-hwan used the power of a dragon, and his dragon started to emit a heavy aura. Even though the animal was small, but the danger was not weak. Then a guard came from Three Men's Corner and asked about what happened in this alley. The people watching the guard decided that they would be able to blame everything on Su-hwan, saying that he attacked them and started a fight which makes no sense and kills his two dogs. Then one of their people said, "He has a relationship with the police here, so that's a good idea. So he will ask them to catch Su-hwan. He already thought that he will make Hans look like an idiot. When he was in the prison cell and after she got rid of him, she would be able to meet Su-ching, because her annoying brother wouldn't bother them." "Who is the owner of the document?" "The man's name is Gu." The guard put his hand on his shoulder and asked how he was. The young man started playing and yelled at Su-hwan, telling guard Zheng that Su-hwan is a bastard with special cruelty who beats his dog for no reason. Because of that, he asks to arrest the man for disobeying orders and assaulting him and his pets. Then he became a good boy, and then they wouldn't hurt him. Slowly approaching him, Su-hwan threw a brick at the guard's feet. He turned to them and said that it was with this cur Peach that he killed Master Gu's dog. And if the guard had nothing to do, then let they asked him something. Two guards started shouting at the young man and saying that how dare he kill so come back, and even in the middle of the road if he was beaten, then he would surely like him. And then, in the cell he was about to be placed in for having carried out the attack. Hearing the guards' faces change dramatically with anger replaced by shock, as a dragon looked out over the angry Su-hwan's shoulder, and was extremely dissatisfied with the way they were treating and addressing its master. The guards realized that the young man standing in front of them was a Tamer, and to prove these words, Su-hwan showed a card which showed that he was Bao Zhu's apprentice. Two guards turned to their boss, and he also changed his face, remembering the rumors around. Recently, the city has circulated in the database about the second student burgomaster, as the young man standing in front of them. It's true that the same student in front of the patrol guard took out a gunshot in the air and turned to Kuyineo, telling him how dare he so boldly and presumptuously arrange a murder this. He ordered his subordinates to handcuff them. If the accused refuses, they can use firearms. He started to say that this is some kind of mistake because he is a victim, and Su-hwan is a crime committed by a young child, the man shouted, and said that his father is the one with plantation stone No. 5. Then, Gu said, that his father had done him such a great favor in the past that he had no right to treat him like that. After these words, the guard slapped him, man in the face, and told his underlings that if he tried to escape, then let him get a few dozen punches, and called Su-hwan a man and said that he couldn't imagine that a coup would set his dog on fire. He said the young man that he was glad he reacted quickly and gave up otherwise. You never know what else could have happened if Mr. Su didn't fight back. Su-hyun's face was serious, and he sarcastically said that the guard appeared at the right time. After seeing the man's mood, he sweated and smiled awkwardly, saying that if these three fell into his hands, he would do everything possible to punish them. but this is if they don't die by peeling off their skin. Su Huan said that this arrangement barely suited him. Whether Gu died after Jiang or not, Su Huan would still find a way to take revenge on him very soon. After he was released, the guard had no time to answer anything, because the young man turned around to Su the king, and her mood changed to her facial features softer, and she smiled brightly at him, saying that everything was fine and they were going home. She held out her hand, and he smiled sweetly, and told her they would be home when the family he left Jen treated his subordinates and asked question of who they were. They thought it was more dangerous to be angry than the plantation owner or the master Tamer. Then his underlings said that there was nothing to think about, as it was better not to anger the Tamer after all. They were small people compared to him, and they didn't want to die. They wanted to live a bit longer. The boss agreed with the underling's answer, and beat him in flight in a fatherly way. Jen Jr. turned to the bound trio, and turned to the other guards, telling him to find a carriage for them, and would be waiting for him here, and then they would take the three straight to the Adder incinerator, where decay would detain them. And then they were about to be punished. Su Qing, whom Su Huan brought to the land that their family bought, was being chopped up. Through all the rooms, her eyes shone with joy, and she said that she would never think that they would come back here again. She was like in dream. Su Huan smiled and told him not to faint first. He took out a lot of keys and said it was his. The young man told Su Huan, "The king buying their old house is just the beginning. It will get better, and more the girl is close." Her brother took her hand in hers and said that he had faith in Su Huan and was sure that everything would be fine with them. From now on, the girl was very proud of her brother and what she could achieve in such a short time as their life got better, and they supported each other. Their sweet conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. Su Huan got up and walked towards the door. He opened it, and there was a man, Fordham, and he is 50 years old, standing behind him. The man said he is the deputy director of the management of Guo Plantation. And then Su Qing looked out and recognized this man. And helping them, he says that he plans to transfer him to Plantation 30, so that he can plow the land and become an ordinary farmer without any privileges, which he had before. Wild animals were rampant in this plantation, and all kinds of trouble happened from time to time. And then after that, he thought that at least a leader would be able to adapt to this. He asked Su Huan, was he happy with this arrangement? Su Huan said he was happy. The director would take note of this situation. He continued, and said that he had heard that Su Qing was the senior agronomist in their plantation system. Therefore, she could be promoted to the position of deputy director in their management agronomy department. Then suddenly Su Qing was shocked and said that she was absolutely not suitable for the proposed position. Kyo said that she must be suitable because they were Mr. Su Huan's sisters, so there was no mistake that this position was most suitable for her, and if she needed anything, who he could always find, went and asked for help. The girl who heard this happily said that she would be happy to help. See this, Su Huan thought, that when people get stronger, they get more privileges. That's how it works. Hands back to home and get ready to eat. The dragon, the food he cooks is rice. He asks the animal to eat a little more of this food according to the mentor's recipe, and it is also very useful, but for the animal itself, because the more it eats, the faster it grows and becomes stronger. It annoyed him because he was forced to eat so many feed formulas for tame animals divided into poor quality. Average good, very good, extraordinary, perfect and perfect. There are a total of 8 formulas. So many people try to use the last 5 formulas because the better the quality is bigger. The result is other than that this recipe is very important for a young man as a student. But Su Huan doesn't understand why the dragon doesn't like the food. And according to this recipe, right after he tried it, most likely it was not the food itself, but the ingredients. The young man understood that the idea of wrong ingredients was right. So he called Grizz more as soon as the lizard dragons hatched. They immediately ate their own shells, and then they cannot eat for a long time. Time is a hybrid of 3 species of dragon amphibians and evil creatures. Dragons and lizards cannot be uniform because they have to be focused on certain aspects. But at the same time, dragons and lizards are quite fussy in food because they prefer food in the natural form of living things. Su Huan smiled and turned to the animals, saying that he understood what the matter was, so he would look for new recipes for animals. When he heard these words, beaming serious, Su Huan said, that teacher gave him a lot of money in their place. He didn't need to restrict pet food and himself with Su Qing. Therefore he would buy good food, so that the animals would eat more and grow faster. For the next few days, Su Huan fed his dragon according to the recipe from the ritual book. Su Huan, the ancient dragon, walked into the shop where the prawns were caught, which means they were fresh. He bought fresh fish meat and other products that the dragon liked very much. Because in 5 days of such a regime, Su Heng spent every penny of his money, and his dragon grew so big that outwardly he already resembled a complete dragon, only small in size, although the young man was sad because there was no money left. He was happy his dragon had overcome the childhood stage child, and entering adulthood, if they encountered another dog that spent a lot of energy fighting, then now its dragon would not have the slightest difficulty. Then, Su Huan imagined how the child was preparing to jump on the back of the seams they met in the alley. He jumped on them, grabbed them with his claws, and tore them to pieces. He said that his animal would be able to kill such a person in a few seconds, without any energy consumption. A lot in one breath, as the dragon ate the food prepared by Su Huan. He stroked it and noted that the dragon had quite tough scales. So an ordinary person without firearms posed no threat, even if 5 or 3 adults and heavily armed men did. Meeting a dragon, they would be killed in seconds. Su Huan remembered that teacher asked to find him in the castle, when his dragon entered the adult stage, but it was amazing that only 5 days had passed since he stopped being a child, that the recipe from the old book really referred to the perfect level, or even perfect because of that, since it was very important to be careful and keep it a secret. The young man said that it seemed like his dragon had to learn soon how to use his new skill. It would also be good to stop frequent formula feedings for at least 10 days. Definitely 10 days. Then Su Huan came to the castle. He knocked on the door where Baoju was supposed to be and was allowed in. Baoju said that he had not seen Su Huan for a long time, and that he was unemployed. The young man rubbed the back of his head and smiled. He was going to apologize to the teacher, said that he worked hard for the development of dragons, so he couldn't often attend training. The man launched the dragon and said that thanks to the recipe given by Baoju, the dragon has successfully reached the adult stage. The man saw the dragon screamed in surprise, because the dragon reached this stage so well fast. Then Su Huan said, that in 10 days is not as fast as it seems. He slapped you on the back of the head and said that it was very fast. He said that his 8th disciple by Su Huan, it takes a month for his beast to develop from child stage to adult stage. He asked directly how fast he still needed, and besides with Su Huan's ice lotus. 2 levels lower than his dragon, according to Su Huan, would be better without wild growth rate. Because the teacher's reaction was very harsh, Baoju said that the young dragon turned out not only to have extraordinary fighting abilities, but also has a unique growth potential. If he is already an adult dragon, then he may already be used to his new ability. Now he has the strength of the 1st level dragon, and 2nd, and these are 2 kinds of intimidation skills. Dragon power related to what or dragon emitted, and the way he looked at the enemy dragon power shock, and the increasing pressure in the air and the breath of evil thoughts also rise to a new level, and form into streams of evil thoughts. Baoju looked at the man in disbelief and listened to what he had to say, because how in such a short time could the young man develop the skill of the beast to such a high level, as the rest would take a month or even more? The man smiled and said it was all thanks to hard work. Teacher was with him. Su Huan thought it was a good thing that he didn't tell about Dragon Master Dream's Sila evil attack realm also developed. Baoju said that he didn't doubt the young man. He offered them to go to the training hall to see his ability now, and man, that's agreed. Then, they came to the private practice burgomaster. He told the man that he hoped the dragon would show himself in the best way. If this was true, then he would give him a personal amulet. Master, he said that Su Huan did a good job, and passed through many hurdles who he met on the way. Therefore, how well the dragon would show itself today. would depend on whether Su Huan would get himself a convenient talisman. Hearing these words, Su Huan turned to the dragon and asked him not to let him down. Baoju called a stone armadillo bear and told him to play with little dragon. The bear was gray in color, and its body, including its head, was covered with armor that looked like an armadillo. Seeing the bear, it was a child, and Su Huan was very surprised. The young man asked the teacher how much more an animal that he possesses with an evil element, because every time he trains it, he summons some new beasts that are very different from the previous ones. Baoju laughed and said that he was still weak, because he had only tamed 10 to 20 high-grade dangerous beasts, and he didn't think this was a good result. He also said that only half of the tamed beasts were at the stone level, bear or Tyrannosaurus lava, but he decided to leave all other evil, and told Su Huan to prove to him how much he wanted this talisman. He asked to show him everything he was capable of. Because it was time to see the results of his hard work, the bear stood up with its hind legs, let out a powerful roar like an enormous gust of wind. Then Su Huan hung covering his face, and the dragon remained on the floor so as not to move because Su Huan's eyes were closed. He did not immediately realize that the dragon was using a dragon's power called a barrier that would prevent the beast and its owner from entering a kind of separating ball, them from external stimuli. Baoju said that it wasn't too bad, because his dragon at the growth stage could resist the ones that were already completely formed. The one who formed, he stopped the bear that was preparing for a new attack, and gave the right of attack to Su Huan, and the kid told him to using an inspired evil breath. Su Huan turned to the boy and told him to use the evil thought flow that the dragon breathed. The air in a small black and purple ball formed in his mouth. When the boy formed a ball, he released it from his mouth to attack the bear. The ball hit the target, but it didn't cause any damage, which was obvious, which is why he said that the dragon ate the small gruel because the balls he spits out were nothing more than amused for him. Su Huan, the stone bear, grinned, because only he understood what he and his dragon were going to do. Next, he gave the dragon to use. Your evil pearl's stream of evil thoughts, after listening to the dragon's order, began to launch balls one after another, aiming at the bear's head. At first it seemed useless because he didn't cause him any damage, but after a while a crack formed on the bear's head, and the armor flew. Baoju noticed this, saying that Su Huan was well done, because he didn't even realize that the young man would learn the evil breath technique so well, and use it in attack. He understood that the chicken used accumulated darkness energy, and was able to make a series of real shots. As if it was a bullet, has also built up a series of excellent attacks shy of praise. Su Huan said that the teacher praised it too much. He thought that there was another evil pearl technique. It was an attack with extremely high accuracy, and therefore the enemy could not dodge. But only attacks at this level still will not be able to penetrate the stone bear armor, Baoju said. He was pleased with the progress the young man made because his attacks became more powerful and clearer. He gave him a golden ring. The talisman ring now belongs to the young man. Although he can't accommodate as many animals as he is, he can easily accommodate 5. There is enough space in the ring to accommodate 5 animals, and if the animals are tame, Su Huan is a little crowded, and even 10 can be accommodated by Su Huan. Then he thanked his teacher, but he said it was too early to be happy. Even though he had not developed his technique in magic control well, his combat experience was still 0. Participating in real battles was the best way to increase this experience, so he decided to send Su Huan over to the northern part of their defense, where there would be great opportunities to fight with dangerous kinds of animals. In 3 days, Su Huan had to report to the military headquarters and notify, and already there, someone would give him an appointment behind the Blah-Light high walls, and there were 4 a line of defense guarding the entire base of each line of defense. And it consists of military camps, as well as many animal tamers along with specially trained military personnel with south and north border firearms. It is the most dangerous. There are battles with dangerous species, and almost every day most of the materials in the city relate to dangerous types of animals also. Was the result of hunting the 4 major frontiers. In 3 days, Su Hing collected the down payment for next month's profit for the Tamirs, and it was that much as 250,000 new, The young man spent most of this amount to buy groceries for his dragon, as well as a full 3 days of preparing these materials into a formula for preserving food as long as possible. With the agreement with the military headquarters, the outer fort Su Huan went to the northern border post 7 as a member of the 4 lines of the defense team in the base area, and made most of it for the plantation that located in wild places. In the end, the area of land where he could harvest was quite limited, and the total harvest of the 7 estates inside the gathering couldn't meet the needs of the 50,000-60,000 people living in the city. Working on the plantations outside the city was second only, after joining a search team in terms of level danger, and this was also one of the most dangerous industries that the residents of the base tried to avoid. If Su Huan's memory didn't change, then the head of plantation number 5 was assigned to plantation number 30, which was located in the security zone of the northern defense line. Then, Su Huan and others drove to the base to the 7th observation point. The person who escorted the young man wished him good luck, and he had to go back and report that he escorted the young man to where the people were at the base. He looked out and saw that Suhai, the man in the car, said that the chief of staff himself brought this newcomer here. Others answered him that this kid is the Master Tamer. This could be understood from the way he was dressed and wearing his back stuffed to the brim with rations of tame animals. They decided to go down and help the young man with their luggage, ran up to the man and shouted to him that they would carry his things, because how Su Huan could do it by himself. When they were there, the man didn't understand what was going on. The older man introduced himself and said that his name was Xia Huang. Then they helped him because now the safety of 7th Point only depended on Su Huan. Su Huan said unnecessary formalities were not needed because Xia Huang was older than him, and he would call him Huang Ji. The man who heard this burst into tears. The man who's stingy, and said that for the first time she met Master Tamer, who wasn't arrogant. She called her wards to help Master Su too, and after that they arranged a feast for her. There were only 29 guard posts in the northern border, and Su Huan had to report the situation in the 7th century outpost. More than 10 years ago, it was blown to pieces by the most dangerous flying species that left not a single survivor in the outpost. And then since then the entire modern guardhouse. No 7 has been reconstructed on top of the ruins. This will be the place where Su Huan will enter into his sad battle and start gathering combat experience. The young man sits down at one of the tables in the dining room, and he comes up to him by bringing the dishes. He said that although they don't have any special requirements to cook delicious food, but Athena's cooking is very good. Su Huan asked Huang Ji to call him by his first name, not by his name. They told the man they were comrades in arms, so it would be too weird if they called him, because Master Su Huan said that Master Tamer was a very important person, so he would also call him Suji. The man who helped unload the luggage sat at the table with them. Su Huan said that if he called him, then he would call Huang Ji, and this was unconditional. He asked the people sitting at the table, how often did they have this kind of animal? It was dangerous here. He was answered by a young man with a bandana on his head. He said that here they were still somewhere on the halfway line, so the pressure on the defense was of course less than at more distant outposts. But there are still many fish that can slip through the net. He asked Su Huan to turn around and show him a group of dangerous animals they caught in the past few days. In the middle and end of every month, a military officer with a team from the city came here, who was in charge responsible for transporting rare resources and counting gifts. Su Huan praised them and said that it is very difficult without a beast that is tamed, so that it is worthy of prey. Another group member asked Su Huan what his beast can do, and asked him to show it. Then he started commanding his ward, but Su Huan complied with his request and summoned a dragon. Friends look at the dragon in surprise and say that this is the most dangerous kind. The boy landed next to him, and the men were surprised because they understood that the first name Basuji is the most dangerous kind. It's just incredible. That boy uses shock and awe to attack men. But he gave him a slap on the back of the head and said that he could not attack his comrades and had no mother. The man who tried to attack the dragon said that all was well. With him and the beast was really strong, which showed splendor. Suji as the master, and he laughed at his friend and said that he almost peed in his pants, but said that everything was fine. After that, Su-hwan knew his 5 brothers in the post. After a short recovery, Su-hwan, on the mentor's suggestion, began to practice the power of mind using the spiritual hammer. The method suggested by his mentor was called crystal mind and consisted of 3 stages. The first stage is to eliminate all distractions and create a crystal environment for meditation around himself. Meditate as if on a giant crystal. The second stage is working with a certain rhythm of breathing. When the mind gradually becomes one with the meditation environment, the third stage is the final stage, which is based on hammer wool method. Spiritual with Su-hwan's current progress will only take half a year, and to reach the crystal clear mind, as the teacher said, is generally a monster like Sister Su-hwan, who only in a month or so refined his mind to crystal purity. He must be really bright like that moon. Currently hanging above him in the sky, the man looks up and notices the alarm signal from the tower. He meets Huang Xia, who says that it is time to get down to business, as something bad has happened. Then Su-hwan passed out the binoculars to see approaching threats. A young man said that this was a dangerous species of the 2nd rank. The clubfoot beetle instead paused, as a scythe-armored claw that could easily split any cobblestone. He said that the scythe beetle was a type the most common animal in the sector. Although these bugs reproduce quickly and kill for 4 minutes, 5 at a time is not a problem. Huang Zio gave the order to everyone to prepare for battle. Front of the position on the northwest side, Zio Yang and Zio will guard the 5th and 6th shooting. In the first level, he said, they should get together and help him to complete the book of the book. The dangerous type ability is the reception of the perception of wearing armor. Then shoot the bullet that can penetrate this beetle's armor, it says. They kill 1,000 at a time. Only the main thing to remember is that they don't have to take their heads off. Otherwise, they will not get the military award for the best skill. This side beetle is a layer of armor. It is not very effective, but significantly weakens the effect of conventional bullets by continuously firing machine guns. It can create perfect opportunities to hit the target. Su-hwan looks at his brother, and how they fight and understand that this is the battlefield of the northern border, even though they are not master Tamirs. But their understanding of the situation and the skills honed in many fights are enough to provide all the necessary fighting power. Into the car chasing money. The man sat in front of the machine gun and started shooting. He stopped shooting because Su-hwan got out of the car and headed straight for the beetle, and Huang gave orders for him to monitor the internal borders, because everyone is there. And they had to be alert. The beetle looked in front and looked at him with fear in his eyes. And the man in turn said that first they would see what happened to him. After the evil attack, he let go of the child who attacked angrily. The beetle, who in turn called clothes the iron to defend again. The drag kit easily penetrated this armor and threw the beetle aside, but at the same time Su-hwan deduced that the armor actually worked very well, so it still parried its attacks and didn't damage the person. Ordered the dragon to use the flow of evil thoughts. The evil Maulish pearl started to let spheres towards the armor of the beetles, which is now hard to give up. Therefore, Su-hwan used Shao Kana and ordered the dragon to tear these insects to shreds. The dragon gave damage to him, but the beetle started to flee again. Chopped its claws, the man said. That this isn't a very good idea, and using that power. The dragon stopped and formed a wave of ground that overtook the beetle. Concluding that he didn't need their help, and saying that they had goosebumps watching this fight, since they didn't have tame animals. This was a very interesting sight for them, especially if they were watching him from a few meters away. After seeing such a fight in person, they would definitely be imprinted in their memories. The next day, it was he who told the others about what he had seen with his own eyes. He said that he was most impressed by using the power of the earth, as the stone spear appeared directly from it. Stabbed a beetle like a gourd. The man tried to imitate the dragon's moves by explaining everything Huang Zio said to Su-hwan, that he used to think that he liked all those sweaty newcomers. Just decided to be rich, but turns out to be someone who thinks not only of his own skin, but also of the people around him. Wang Ji is very impressed with the young man and says that he's really cool. The man embarrassingly scratched the back of his head and smiled, then said that this wasn't just his merit. Everyone contributed to the knight's victory, so all of our comrades were great, and there was no point in highlighting it specifically towards the others. Their dialogue was interrupted by a young man called Huang, and said that someone was coming to them. Su Huan and Huang Ji went to see who was heading their way. They saw a convoy of commandos coming on the road. He said this was strange because usually when recounting military supplies, orders came to them only during the day. After they visited every guard of the watchtower, also including Post, the man didn't understand why they came today. And at this time, the armored car column stopped near the base, and a blonde-haired youth with glasses had a cigarette in his mouth and a bandana came out of it. This person was Commander-in-Chief of the Northern Line of Defense, Lu Ling. Huang Zio greeted him in bows. Lu Ling told Wang Ji that they had not seen each other in many years, and he still had not changed and had not aged. And then he let out stingy tears which surprised Lu Ling. Wang Ji said he didn't even think about Lu Ling remembering his name. So he was very flattered by this fact. He said that the Commander-in-Chief had worked hard to work with them, and this fact also affected Huang. Zio and he started crying more actively. Was he used to being in this kind of condition? Su Huan frantically said that he needed to report something to the Commander-in-Chief, but then suddenly turned around and said that he knew all his comrades in service and adapted well to living here. The adaptation went without much trouble. Then, Lu Ling smiled and patted the man's head and told him that there was no need to talk to him formally, because he wanted to be his friend. He said that Bao Ju had mentioned several times that he picked up new talented students, and it turned out that his owl was really honest. But Lu Ling decided to come again to see the man in person and knew him. An ordinary teacher, but they didn't know that he was the personal disciple of the mayor they respected so much. They were very lucky that this youngster didn't cause trouble all this time. Lu Ling turned to Huang Xiu asking, why did he stand like a pillar and not let him down, after struggling for the past half-month at the post? He demanded a report and asked them to leave and not interrupt his dialogue with the young man. Later, Lu Ling asked Su Huan to summon his dragon because the mentor specially instructed him to come and monitor the man's progress so that he could report everything to him later. When the man heard about the mentor, he was shocked because he was sure he forgot about it immediately, the moment he left the city, but found that he had sent his fake eye springs to follow him. Su Huan summoned the dragon and then flew out of the ring and sat next to his master. Then, Lu Ling was surprised when he saw the beast, because the male dragon hatched less than a month ago and had grown to such a large size, but he played dumb and said that his dragon had grown a lot since he learned to use dragon magic, and the man asked what actually wrong. Why was Lu Ling so surprised? Lu Ling sweated, saying that everything was fine, and everything was fine, and his beast also grew more and more at one time changed his face. Then Lu Ling said that his mentor asked him to find out how well he had honed his dragon fighting skills, said the man. He also has his own tamed dragon, so he will let him examine the dragon. Race ranked as a dragon, he was personally raised by Lu Ling to the level of an extremely precious dangerous species. Due to his thick hide and horns, he was able to endure a second-rank beast at the end of its growth for a short time. This dragon was one of Lu Ling's most important advantages. He was very proud of that. The horned earth dragon was bigger than any beast they had ever seen. Previously, there were sharp spikes on its muzzle and back. It scared the dragon with just its appearance, and it cried seeing its master Su Huan turn to Lu Ling and requested that his dragon be gentle with the dragon, otherwise he would just trample on it. Then Lu Ling turned to the horned dragon and said that it seemed that the dragon had not woken up yet, so he suggested waking it up using a small earthquake. The horn started stomping and the earth shook, because the trampled Ling floated, which shocked men's levitation was an advantage because it could control spiritual power, after train the mind power. But Su Huan will think about this later. He ordered the child to use evil attacks and dodged the punch that the child used to grab Su Huan by the shoulder and ride into the air, the child with its master in its claws. Avoid the attack of the horns. The dragon's hand told the dragon to use the pearl of evil. Only this horned dragon son took his master to a safe distance, started to attack. But it didn't cause any harm. Su Huan understood that relying on his dragon to defeat the horned dragon so far was just a dream. So even losing beautifully, the least cool he could do was to show the dragon development results he had achieved all the time, and also not to disappoint the teacher, who was so worried about being 10 kilometers away from him. The youth told his dragon that his advantage over the horned oneness was first of all speed, so he was able to surround it with pearls of evil. The boy followed his master's advice and surrounded his opponent, and then stabbed the horned dragon in the back. Where the bruises were still forming, Su Huan told the dragon to use the power of the earth to recover the spent strength and energy, and then use the Su Dragon Earth Dance. Then he attacked the dragon horn, but he stomped his foot again, and with a shockwave, threw the dragon into the wall where he was crash. Then Su Huan immediately ran to the dragon. Lu Ling praised the young man and said that he has good tactics, but still has the strength of the horned earth dragon already at level 9, so his earth dance is nothing to him. But like a weak cat, Su Huan looked at Ling and said with annoyance that he asked to use everything possible so as not to steal Ling's teacher down, and said that he didn't want to offend the man. He only understood what dragons could do, because he had met them before. She had praised the man and said that Baoju would be pleased with him. Then, Lu Ling put his arm around the young man's shoulder and led him inside the fort. He said that the dragon Su Huan progressed much faster than him. Their teacher took a very talented young man as a student. In turn, the horned earth dragon repeated after its owner and caressed the dragon to encourage him, for he coped with the task assigned to him immediately. After the commander-in-chief's departure, winter came. It snowed in great flakes from the sky. It was very cold in the guardhouse, as the walls were not as high and strong as at its base, capable of sheltering from the winter coalmen sleeping in beds that did not warm them very much. Even though winter had just started and was already very cold, yet he was still so cold that he was trembling and his teeth were grinding against each other. Then his friend told him to become Master Tamer, because Su Huan had a spiritual cover, and for example, he was warm. Then the alarm started sounding, and everyone blasted from their bed. He ran into the room and said that guard post No. 3 in the server section called them, and reported that a group of dangerous species had attacked Platinum 25. He said that he who and Suhi were with him now will be called from the 3rd post, and the rest will guard the house. According to Captain Lee, the situation is very serious now, because almost the entire 25th plantation has actually captured more than 20 individuals of a dangerous species, and not about 5 less dangerous ones have penetrated into his territory. All the factory workers are now locked up in staff quarters, and they had about a dozen broken guns, which they somehow fought back. But only a matter of time. Before the inward link, Huang Zio said that they will gather support for all patrol-based posts, now 3 and No. 4 in the northern sector, as well as the main force almost completely coming out to protect the collecting plantation plan, should be completed by 4 a.m. because the attack will start exactly at this time. The time shows 3:40 and Huang told him who should drive faster on the radio. Huang Ji said that Su Huan and Zio, who arrived at the designated place at the appointed time, the radio reported that they were doing reconnaissance. The beast broke through the 6th gate on the northwest side. Now they were in the grain area, where they attacked them, and then it tore chunks of flesh from the corpses. And then, all the survivors were transferred to the staff headquarters, and now self-defense strengthening the protection of all battle squads. All vehicles changed to spear form. 2 armored vehicles will be used as sources. Spears directly attack and open fire on the plantation dormitory building. Those who came to help was told to be careful. The dangerous species that invaded here were poison wolves that were impervious to attack and could easily bite off their heads, so he had to kill them immediately and release the survivors. Then, once it came out, some of them would be killed, and they were killed by the wolves. But this was not the end, because the Alpha started howling and summoning more wolves, and now there were barely more than a few dozen of them, and they immediately ran to the tanks and armored vehicles. Steel Su Huan approached Ziohu, who was driving, and said that something was wrong, so he asked him to pull back. Huang asked Suji. Was all right, the young man said. He heard wild howling, so he became alert. He said he had heard from teacher Baoju that it was dangerous. A species like the venomous wolf could evolve into the ultimate alpha wolf form sitting in the car. They saw that the wolf was running straight towards them, and Su Huan said that they should be guided by the leader. So it was no wonder that so many individuals had broken through the fort. The poison wolf that sat on top of the hill watching for the help that had come, and using its skill, the poison mist plunged everything into the black mist. And then after he said that he needed to turn on the infrared side as well for everyone to be alert and keep an eye on their comrades, so as not to lose them in the fog. Su Huan said that things weren't that simple and asked himself who should back up and drive even farther. Then he looked to the side and saw a wolf charging. One of the armored vehicles tore off the roof. This car was surrounded by 4 wolves, one of which was much bigger than the others. A dire situation. In a desperate situation, he said that this wolf is just a companion of the shadow wolf. With the special ability of the leader of the poisonous wolf is a double shadow indicating that there is another leader approaching their car. The wolf crashes into the car at full speed. From that side he tries and breaks the glass, but doesn't turn around. He still has the machine gun in his hand and is shooting at the wolf as it moves. The man says it's hard for him, as he can't even penetrate the armor for a bit. The wolf stops. He lets the car go on and jumps on it to destroy the roof of the wolf's mouth, turns a few centimeters away from him, but a dragon appears protecting his tamar. The dragon uses shock and awe, and without a second's hesitation, the flow of evil thoughts that is pearl of evil. He uses a series of quick attacks aiming at the wolf's head. His attack is advantageous, and he killed the hanged wolf. Su Huan on the radio asked to stop shooting to avoid accidental casualties and injuries. He said that he would take care of the poison wolf leader himself, so he asked to believe. However, the man who was originally coordinating the people who came to help looked when the man threw his buying knuckles and said that it was not surprising that the young man was so excited because he was Baoju's disciple, and he was a very diligent young man. Although he was still in the training stage, the man demanded that everyone saw fire to support military vehicle number 10 in the north sector, where Suji Huangji and Zio were. He said that the leader of the poison wolves is now completely on Mr. Su Huan. They will take care of other small things so as not to interfere. Then Su Huan tried to fight back. Su Huan and the dragon got out of the wrecked car, everyone got out of their car, but visibility was very low because the poisonous fog covered the entire perimeter. Then they pointed their finger at the big wolf attacking another car, at where there was still someone leaving the person. From the screen of the car and calling for help, Su Huan ran towards them and shouted to the wolf to stay away from the man. He ordered the child to use evil attacks. Then the dragon picked up speed and rushed straight to the fallen wolf, and the man who called for help smiled brightly and thanked Su Huan for saving him as he thought he was about to die. Then he shouted at him to run, but the man didn't understand why the high-class person standing in front of him panicked and screamed. But the wolf rose with its claws and stabbed at this young man's chest. Su Huan became angry and shouted at the kid to use the earth dragon dance down to the ground, stomps and roars. But the wolf uses sinister attack counterattack and dodge dragon attack. Suji says this is a big chance to attack and tells his comrades to open fire on the barrier wall. The wolf doesn't let the bullet through, so shooting turns useless. But the boy attacks wolf again, bites his neck. The hand told the beast to use shock and awe. The boy flew into the air and used his skills, moved towards the wolf. The boy killed the wolf and he died. Wang Zio asked Su Huan, "How was everything, and was he all right?" The man who drooping said that everything was fine with him. He just thought Wang said that in the past Master Tamers didn't usually get involved in invasions of this scale. But if it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for Su Huan, the loss would be much more. At least twice. Huang Zio said that Suji saved them, so that he doesn't need to be angry. Wang Ji raised his hand and showed the young man the scar. He tell him that this scar has been with him since he first fought to save the estate. His first battle was far scarier than today, and more than 50 people were killed and injured in that battle. The armored car was destroyed by the huge steel gorilla in adult form, which turned the whole crew to mush. In the end, it was the commander-in-chief of the Northern Front who personally killed the beast, and ended that bloody battle, issued something, and handed it to the young man who ordered him to drink. Then a man said, "That death is inevitable. They are all people, they live here, like floating leaves, without roots and support. Therefore no one can guarantee that today they will sleep, and tomorrow they would wake up and see the sun fighting to save the estate." And it was the first time Su Huan faced death, and to face that, he turned out to be a real fighter, who after this nightmare finally realized that only continuous effort can help save himself and his family, protect others in this chaotic world. In the following month, Su Heng began special training for himself and his dragon snake lizard, following the canon of the ancient dragon. The results are quite extraordinary. Apart from increasing in size, the mastery of the dragon snake lizard against the 3 elemental energies became stronger. The skills also developed one after another, and the effects became several times stronger than before. While Su Heng was immersed in his training, Scout No received a familiar guest. Lu Ling came to visit Su Heng while riding the Lion King. Su Heng was amazed to see Lu Ling riding the Lion King. He thought that it was very cool and wondered whether the dragon snake lizard could also be ridden or not. Lu Ling then dismounted from his mount and said that he heard Su Heng participated in the plantation support battle last time. Besides that, Su Heng's performance on the battlefield was very good. Lu Ling then complimented Su Heng that he really was a student that the teacher valued. Su Heng then asked Lu Ling didn't the teacher order him to take exams once every month. But Lu Ling looked like he didn't care at all. He laughs because he came to avoid the teacher complaining later when he is too busy. After they finished talking, Lu Ling asked Su Heng to release the dragon snake lizard so he could train it. Hearing Lu Ling's request, Su Heng took out the dragon snake lizard. Seeing the size, Lu Ling was extremely dumbfounded and asked if Su Heng's cultivation formula was already perfect. But Su Heng said that he always used the formula given by the teacher, so he thought that the dragon snake lizard might absorb it better. After a second thought, Lu Ling didn't want to test the dragon snake lizard and asked Su Heng to get rid of the dragon snake lizard. Lu Ling then told him that according to the teacher's instructions, once the dragon snake lizard reached its mid-growth stage, Su Heng's training on the northern front would be considered complete. So he asked Su Heng to get ready to return to the castle to meet the teacher. Su Heng was surprised to hear that he could return this quickly. Xiao Huang and the others were also crying because Su Heng was leaving. They said that they would miss Su Heng, and they would not be able to sleep because of missing him. Hearing that, Su Heng sarcastically said, if they were that excited, why not accompany the dragon snake lizard to run? Xiao Huang immediately dodged it and accused Ah Wun of being the one who said he couldn't sleep because he missed it. Ah Wun panicked because of that. The next day, at the gathering place in the dark light training room, Su Heng felt that he couldn't hold on anymore. Lin Fu, the castle lord's trusted servant and loyal servant, praised Su Heng for surviving so long under his bombardment. As the castle lord said, Lin Fu said that Su Heng must not be careless with the moon. Lowering his head, Lin Fu said that Zhou had gotten a good student. Although not as talented as his elder sister, Su Heng was quite persistent. But Zhou, he didn't expect that Su Heng would finish training in just 1 month and be so successful. He then asked if Su Heng was having trouble with his timing. But Su Heng told his teacher not at all. Through practice, he can feel the growth and challenges every time. To him, this was far better than 3 years of incubating and hatching beast eggs without making any progress. Then, Zhou said that the fact that the dragon snake lizard could be trained and cultivated this far had already surpassed his expectations. This also made him more confident in the arrangements he had for Su Heng in the future. Su Heng got excited thinking he was going to the outer periphery of the lookout post. But Zhou said that was not the case, and informed that he was preparing Su Heng to participate in the 6 regions duel that would take place after 1 month. Zhou explained that the 6 regions duel was held once a year. This was a tournament co-organized by the 6 main gathering places for the chance to enter the ruins of the Blood Forest. But, even though this was called a duel, in reality, this was to fight for the chance to explore the ruins. Hearing that Su Heng was shocked and asked whether it was necessary to go through all this trouble to explore the ruins, because they have similar ruins near their gathering place. Joe. He also told his disciples that the blood ruins were completely different from the ordinary ruins that could be found everywhere in the wilderness. The outer area of the blood forest ruins was separated by a hidden energy barrier and could not be entered. Moreover, these ruins were inhabited by a powerful and terrifying race. The Lord of the Hidden Area is a very powerful being. Many years ago, 6 major inventors joined forces and came to an agreement with him after a fierce battle. Under pressure from them and the 6 discoverers, he agreed to open a hidden area once a year for 3 human beastmasters to enter and explore. Hearing that story, Su-heng finally realized that this exploration opportunity was extremely rare, and that meant the competition would be fierce. Because of that, he was worried that he would participate with his current strength, and was afraid that he would not stand a chance. However, he convinced Su-heng not to worry. He was told that the area that the Lord of the Blood Forest ruins had opened up to humans was only the outer edge of the ruins. The inner area and the core of the ruins cannot be accessed. For a newbie like Su-heng, this was indeed a treasure. But for true masters, this is not that interesting. Su-heng became excited hearing that, and said that he would definitely compete for the spot and bring him back. He then said apart from Su-heng, there would be 4 other people participating in this tournament. So tomorrow he would arrange for Su-heng to meet and get acquainted with them. After that, he will start a new practice. When asked by Su-heng where the new training would take place, he answered in the grizzly bear forest. This made Su-heng shocked to hear it. This place is the grizzly bear forest. There is a large forest that covers a very large area which is known as the gray bear forest, and to the south of the gathering place, beyond the vast wilderness to the south, there is where a number of strong wild bears live. All of them were massive creatures that were 4 meters in size and weighed up to several tons. However, due to their inability to harness the energy around them, they are not considered a dangerous species either. Occasionally, these group of bears give birth to evolved individuals with extraordinary powers that have become legendary figures that even trainers admire from afar. They have earned a reputation for being able to soothe crying babies. Thus, Su-heng asked his teacher that wasn't the Gray Bear Forest a forbidden place. But he did not answer her question, and said that Su-heng would understand the true situation there when he got there. So he told Su-heng to go back and rest for a few days. After returning to his residence, Su-heng was thinking that the pre-support ration of 250,000 grams of steel credit that he had been given before going to the lookout post had almost been used up. And the next allowance will also not be distributed for half a month. In order to maintain the dragon snake lizard's current growth rate, Su-heng thought that he must not run out of food supply. Just being pre-support is not a long-term solution, so Su-heng decided to find another way to make money. As a trainer, there are many ways to earn money. Healing-type trainers could gain quite a bit by treating injuries and illnesses. Plant-type trainers can earn generous rewards by increasing yields on large plantations. Water-type and electric-type trainers can also go to the resource department at the gathering place. However, with the help of the Ancient Dragon's Manual, Su-heng thought there might be a more efficient method. Su-heng also visited the Black Lantern Market. At first, Su-heng thought of taking advantage of the Ancient Dragon Manual, but he saw nothing even after exploring for half a day. Not long after, suddenly someone was advertising his shop. He advertised that his store had high-priced buyback and long-term high-priced buying of pitch black fat. Su-heng walked over to the shop and asked if they bought black solid fat. The shopkeeper replied that they bought it at a high price and asked if Su-heng had any. But Su-heng only wanted to ask what use they had in buying this thing. The shopkeeper also scolded Su-heng and said that it was none of his business. At that moment, Su-heng took a peek at the price of pitch black fat per gram of steel. He found that 1 liter cost 80,000 steel credits. He didn't expect that there would be people willing to buy pitch black fat at such a high price. Now Su-heng finally found a way to make money. according to the records in the ancient dragon manual, by mixing black octopus slime, black oak tree sap, and a thickening agent in a ratio of 3:1:2, and refining it at high temperature for several minutes, thick black fat can be made. Although according to the description in the guidebook, the black oak that naturally produced that pitch-black limp was extinct, but it was not a rare item in this black lantern market. Thus, as long as Su Heng could find a thickening fusion agent, then he could be successful in this lucrative business. Su Heng returned to his residence and started experimenting. After being ordered by Su Heng, the dragon snake lizard stepped on it to increase its flames. After that, Su Heng ordered the dragon snake lizard to step on it again. The Black Lantern Market has a highly specialized organization among its 5 bureaus and 13 locations, which is known as the Hazardous Bioenergy Research Department. Its function is to study dangerous creatures and strange energy substances. That research department also has 3 research institutes, which is most likely the real owner who bought that large amount of pitch-black weakling. Even though selling a large quantity of pitch-black fat in the market could make quite a fortune, Su Heng thought that he still had to be careful not to let the secrets of his ancient dragon manual be exposed. Black oaks are not only rare, but also very slow-growing. In addition, some species of dangerous herbivores enjoy eating the tender branches and leaves of the black oak, so trees over 1 meter tall have become extremely rare. If a large quantity of pitch-black fat were to suddenly appear on the black market, Su Heng believed it would definitely attract the attention of the higher authorities. So the single best way for him was to find a shop that could handle the goods, sell them at a discount, and then quickly run away. After walking through the city, Su Heng finally found the place he had been looking for. He immediately came in and showed his belongings. He asked for 2.5 million grams of steel credit for 30 liters of pitch-black tallow and asked if the shop could handle it. The shop could handle it, but he wanted to know where Su Heng had gotten this much from. But Su Heng threatened him with a knife and said he didn't need to know. After getting the money, Su Heng immediately left. Since he couldn't use this money right now, Su Heng thought the best option would be to go to the inner fortress and exchange a small amount of materials for his dragon snake lizard. Then, he would wait until things calmed down. This time was a good opportunity for him to meet his teammates for the special training the next day. On the day of the meeting, one of the participants, Wang Shun, said that he knew Su Heng and said that he was an ordinary person with no talent as a trainer. But he didn't expect that he would be so lucky to be accepted as a disciple by Zhou He. Luo Chong, who agreed with him, was irritated that Su Heng was chosen as the captain of this duel. Lena, another participant, said that Lu Han, the captain from last year's semester, lost the chance to enter the secret place, even though he won 4th place. Hearing their talk, Lin Yuxin asked if they asked the castle master's decision. Moreover, because Su Heng's first pet was the dragon snake lizard, Lin Yuxin said that all of them here didn't even reach high-level dangerous species. Luo Chong also felt offended hearing that. Not long after, Su Heng arrived, led by Lin Fu. After guiding Su Heng, Lin Fu took his leave, not wanting to disturb the youth meeting. After Lin Fu came out, Wang Shun greeted Su Heng by calling him captain, and Lena laughed at Su Heng, who was the only captain who controlled pets. Seeing all of them, Su Heng felt that something was wrong with the atmosphere here. Lin Yuxin also greeted Su Heng and introduced his name to Su Heng. He informed me that he had been a driver more than a year ago, and now he was an official driver. Su Heng shook his hand and introduced himself as well. As they were getting acquainted, Luo Chong suddenly interrupted and said that it was amazing that a 2-month-old driver got hold of the dragon snake lizard. Su Heng replied that it was indeed better than his. Luo Chong became angry and showed his red-scaled beast. After showing off his pet, Luo Chong asked if Su Heng was scared now. Seeing that Su Heng thought that the dragon snake lizard didn't have much chance of winning, but with the help of the old dragon code, then he wouldn't be able to beat the dragon snake lizard during the competition. Su Heng also said that Luo Chong's pet doesn't seem to be a top-level dangerous species. Luo Chong was getting irritated with Su Heng, but he was stopped by Lena, because he was afraid he wouldn't know what the guards would do when he found Luo Chong summoning his pet in the castle. Su Heng then said that Luo Chong should not meet him in the duel next month. An enraged Luo Chong threatened that he shouldn't be his teammate. Su Heng was not afraid of the challenge and said that he would bide his time. After saying what he wanted to say, Su Heng left and slammed the door. Luo Chong was very annoyed by Su Heng's behavior, but Wang Shun convinced Luo Chong not to worry and said there would be opportunities to deal with him in the future. After leaving the place, Su Heng climbed the stairs to take in the sights. He remembered that according to his teacher they would go to the grizzly bear forest tomorrow, and he thinks the other assistant who is not sure is the test left by his teacher. He could only sigh thinking about this problem. He decided to make good use of this special training, and when he returns, he should be a proper captain. The next morning at Su Heng's house, the chief Black Lantern guard, Zheng Cheng, came to say that he would be the escort for the special training to the grizzly bear forest this time.